Namaste everyone. Welcome to the Cārvāka podcast. This is Mehra. All right, today we're going to be. This is going to be a longish podcast because give me a couple of minutes to explain what I intend to do. Unfortunately, Subhi could not start with us right now. I think there's a power cut at her house, and she messaged me कि भाई power नहीं है. मैंने बोला ठीक है मैं चालू करता हूँ आप आओ. So there are going to be two major parts to it. One is what are the legal provisions we have in India as far as crimes like what has happened um, in this particular TCS Nashik BPO is concerned, and what are the punishments, and then what we'll do is when Subhi joins us, whenever the power she gets a regular power supply, she will join us, and at that time what we'll do is we will look at the case by itself. I mean, I'll give you guys a basic introduction to the case. So as of now, 9 employees, 8 women and 1 man, which was at TCS's Nashik office. They have FIRs being filed against them. That includes a senior staff and an HR manager. And there is a long litany of allegations that I will leave for Subhi to explain. They include molestation, stalking, forcing someone to eat non-vegetarian food, and being coerced to offer nawaz, and many other weird ass things that you would never associate with normal human beings. But clearly, Islamists are not normal human beings; they're monsters. So this comes to light somewhere around February to Nashik police when a Hindu woman in her 20s, at a BPO unit was observing fasts for Ramzan. And the police then, some local politicians and local members, they go there, and then the police investigation gets into action too, and there were undercover female officers that were sent part of the cleaning and other services, and then that investigation led to this whole racket being busted. And so I've just given you guys a short summary of this. Obviously there are such startling details that have come out in this entire reportage, and all credit to Subhi Vishwakarma, who she has given a detailed narration of the events. She has shared you know images of the FIR, whichever can be shared. Oh great, she's joined us. तो सुबह अगर आप अपना कैमरा यूज कर सकते हो, यू कैन अनम्यूट योरसेल्फ टू. Oh, she's joined from her cell phone.
Okay.
पावर आ गई कि नहीं?
Hello. Namaste, my visitor. Yeah, आ गए.
आ गई. Okay, great. चलो. So सुबह, how about
I'm
this?
so sorry.
No, no, नहीं, कोई आपकी है गलती है भाई. पावर डिपार्टमेंट सर ना आपके अंडर है. So first of all, Subhi, I want to start by commending you. Fantastic work, wonderful work, and kudos to you for exposing this entire case. So how about this? Now you've made my life easier by joining. So we'll start, Nikhil, as we had planned. So let Subhi explain the entire case, and then तू law क्या है उसके बारे में बात करना, and then we'll go from there. And my only request to everybody who's watching this live, I have zero tolerance when it comes to abuses in sensitive matters. Look at my face. I see an abuse in the live stream. मैं तुम्हें ऐसा ब्लॉक करूंगा कि तुम मेरे चैनल में वापस नहीं आ पाओगे. Having laid down the rules, now we'll start discussion. Subhi, over to you.
Um, thank you, Kushal, me this space to heard. Uh, my voice, I hope it is audible and I'm visible on camera.
Yeah, you are. Don't worry.
Okay. So okay then. Let me briefly introduce the event, what's all has been going on. In the Nashik-based Tata Consultancy Services BPO, what happens is a targeted crime against Hindu women working in the office starts to happen, and this comes out on March 22nd, 2026, when the first complaint in this matter gets registered at the Devlali police station. where the victim is Dalit. And after her complaint, back to back, eight more complaints get registered in the span of 3, 4 days. And the last FIR was registered on April 3rd. So between March 26th and April 3rd, nine FIRs get registered at Devlali police station and Mumbai Naka police station. The complainants include six women who are unmarried, two married women, and a male complainant. All the allegations in these complaints range from harassment, abuse, molestation, sexual assault, forced to conversion, and abuses to Hindu deities, as well as force feeding of beef. I will, and as of now, this is the brief intro, so I'm putting it briefly only. The accused who have been arrested involve six men and a women who is six men and a woman who is Hindu. So I will read out the names of the accused who are Danish Sheikh, Tausif Attar, Raza Memon, Shahrukh Qureshi, Asif Ansari, Shafi Sheikh, and Ashwini Chanani, who was the HR. And as of now, Nida Khan is absconding. So many, apart from the allegations the victims have made of indoctrination their Hindu deities were abused, and how they were lured into Islamic practices, like saying that following namaz rituals daily will get you promotions and get your father cured from a paralytic attack, and it can get your life better, and so on. So many allurements were given to uh, the victims working there. Uh, right now, Nida Khan is absconding, and apart from the human trafficking and money laundering allegations which have been surfaced in this case, now a new angle comes up as Nida Khan has been affiliated with the Delhi terror blast accused, Dr. Shaheen. So all of this has happened. SIT has been formed. NIA is also added into the investigating group. So all this makes so much sense that apart from just basic targeted crimes against Hindu women, which we call grooming, jihad, it is beyond that. It is now police will investigate the terror angle as well. So that's all. This is the brief that has happened.
All right. Subhi, your internet is slightly choppy. So if you could maybe exit and enter again, um, maybe that would help. It's slightly choppy. But Nikhil, on the face of it, now what she's explained, what is there? So what are the cases that we can make?
So, Kushal, I think the first FIR actually relates to rape on false pretenses. That's sort of the key and the most severe offense that is involved here. Right, that is an FIR in which Danish Sheikh is alleged to have coerced one particular victim who, and in this case, you also have the SC/ST Act added on. So this must be the Dalit victim in this case, right? Coerced her. But the story that I'm seeing is that they used to be in college together and that he got her a job as well, July 2022. Uh, I think we can go into more detailed expression of, or should we can go into a more detailed expression of each of the FIRs and their contents, and then I can sort of put all of this together into which offenses are actually arising and how what will be defense, what the defense will try and do, and what kind of legal changes we may need for such cases in the future.
Okay, so Subhi, how about this? Why don't you read the details of one of the FIRs? Like, or you want me to put up
Yeah,
the
sure.
article on the screen? Would that make it easier?
No, no, I read it now. All the things that have started from the first case that was registered on March 26th. So that will be better if I read out the details of that case specifically. So this is the story of a Dalit woman. She registered the complaint on March 26, and what are the details in her complaint? She and Danish used to be studying together at the same college. One day at the Devlali camp area, she meets Danish. And while they were chatting normally, Danish popped up offer to her saying that he works at a reputed IT company and he can get her placed there. As she was pursuing her BCA, so she was happy to hear that while it was her final year, and 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 after this, Danish became a regular. She would come regularly to the camp area and meet this victim. Uh, One day, while they were sitting inside a cafe, what Danish did is that he grabbed the woman by her waist, pulled her towards himself, and kissed her on her lips without even there was no such any conversation going on between them or anything of that sort was going on. He did it without her permission, without anything, and she was shocked. And after that, he justified it, saying that he likes her and
Shubhi,
stuff like that. He began kissing.
was this after she had joined TCS or while at the camp?
No, no, no. Before that, before joining. This was during while they were meeting in cafes and going out. So after she completed her BCA, he arranged an interview for her inside the office, and she was hired. After hiring, what happens is she joins the office. There, she meets Raza Memin and Nida Khan. So the immediate circle she gets into while getting inside the office was Danish, Nida, and Raza. So she would hang out with them. They will go out to eat and in canteens, in pantry area. What used to be the conversation in these while in these meetings and chit chats, they would randomly bring out conversations around Hindu religion. They would say they have read Ramayana and Mahabharata, and they would call Bhagwan Mahadev as male genital, and Bhagwan Krishna as a womanizer. And they would question the character of Draupadi, saying that she had five husbands. How come it was acceptable in your dharma? And apart from that, they would also question Mahadev and his relationship with Bhagwan Ganesh, saying that how can he be his son while he was not present, and how come Mahadev had no idea about Ganesh ji that Parvati is making, and he severed his head and things like that. They would also question Hanuman ji, saying that how come he is the son of Mahadev, and how the essence of Mahadev came into the womb of Anjali. So things like that used to be the discussion, and they would say that
I think Subhi has frozen there. Her internet has frozen. Subhi, okay, she's joined me. I don't know. She's
hello.
exited. Yeah, Subhi, you will have to join from one of them. How about this? Agar aapko, if the internet is giving you problems, right? You can turn the video off and relax. If it's a bandwidth issue, just talk. It's okay. Or if you have a laptop, you can use the
Let me
laptop.
try.
You can use the laptop too. सो निखिल, मगर मेरे को एक बात बता कि अगर ये लोग इतने पहले से ये सब मतलब this process starts, so just a curious question, like when they build the case against this guy, so all these things that he has done before, right, all of it becomes part of the evidence, right?
No. See, when you say it becomes part of the evidence, yes, it's part of the evidence. But I think what you're trying to imply is, does it also implicate the larger conspiracy? And the answer may
Yeah.
well be no, because he's acting alone at that point in time, for all we know, right? And these are going to be very complex questions in this case, right? This is why I intervened and I asked a specific question, that this particular physical barrier that he breached, was this done at TCS after the job was given or before?
Okay,
Right?
fair enough.
Okay.
Subhi, you can
I
continue.
think, yeah, I think I am audible and visible now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So I was telling that, okay, after she joined office, the immediate circle was Raza and Danish and Nida. So they would talk about religious stuff and all that I have told you. What happens next? That one day, Danish takes her to Trambak Road area and into in a secluded place where he forced himself upon her, and he justified it later, saying that, I mean, the first physical intimacy happens there. After they return, and next day she comes to office, Raza and Nida had already knew what had happened between them, and she was agitated about it because such private thing was disclosed among them. And when she confronted, Raza began making another thing started happening. And this was that Raza told this women, Dalit women, that I will tell your parents about this, and if you want me to keep my mouth shut, you will have to come and sleep with me. I will not tell Danish about it. So this was one at one end, Danish was exploiting this women. At another end, Raza was doing this to her. And what happens next is her life becomes a living hell inside office. While she would walk in the lobby, Raza would come and grab her body parts. He would look into her chest area. He would comment on that. He would take her inside the pantry where he will do stuff with her. And all of this was happening in front of Danish, and Danish said nothing at all. So this was happening to her, and if this was not sufficient, one day she receives a call from a woman who introduced herself as Mahareen. And who was Mahareen? Mahareen was wife of Danish, and she told that Danish is a father of two. Shocked at this revelation, the woman confronts Danish, to which he says that it's very common in Islam to have two wives, and how cannot she become her wife? And he began pleasing, also pleasing and manipulating, saying that he loves her, he cannot live without her, and things like that. And the girl was so much manipulated and so much groomed by Danish in the meantime that she agreed and she accepted living like this with her. What happens next is that Mahareen, who is wife of Danish, begins sending videos and links of what? Of clerics and their preachings about Islam, how to please husband, how to please your husband, how to keep a roza, how to open roza, how to offer namaz, how to wear hijab, how to cover yourself, and why is it important to cover yourself being a woman. And one of the videos my source told me in the mobile of this girl was about a cleric in which he is saying that it is important to please men in Islam. And how can you do it? If your husband comes from office to home and he has some physical desire, all you need to do is go into bed immediately with him. You cannot and can never refuse him, even if you are in your labor pain. You and if your husband demands has some physical desire, you will have to satisfy him. Such videos, her mobile phone was filled with content like this. And I will share another detail about this woman. So how she complained? It is not that all of a sudden when Mehreen came up or a revelation about or Danish and Raza were exploiting her, she complained to the police. No, no, this never happened. She was so much brainwashed that she was ready to be Danish's second wife. She was even ready to live with him without marriage, and she would argue with her parents that I am a grown-up individual. The constitution of this country gives me right to live my life according to my will, and you have no say in my life. So this was the conversion which Danish had made to do with this women. Also, this women was very progressive and were very modern before she joined the office. She would wear short clothes, she would wear sleeveless clothes, and she would wear bindi and lipstick. But after coming in contact with Danish, she stopped wearing lipstick, she stopped wearing bindi, and she would wear full sleeves clothes. The face cover which she used to cover her face with to protect herself from sun, suddenly started to change. The pattern of that face cover changed. It started looking like a hijab. All of this was observed by her, one of her friend, that she was not wearing bindi, she would not go to temples anymore. And she confronted her, to which she dismissed. But then her friend reached out to her parents, and then they connected all the dots, and they told her that during Ramadan she would not carry her lunchbox to office, and she would return and lock herself into the room, and would come out in a stipulated period of time, and then only have the dinner. So this is how they related everything, and then reached out to the activist. And when the debate happened, she referred her parents as kafir. She said that you will burn in eternal hellfire. All that no God exists. Every all that we you are worshipping, or you have made me worship, is a lie. They are no God. They are false God. The only God that exists is Allah. He made the world. When her parents argued back, saying that Brahma ji made the world, and then in Dwapar Yuga Ram ji came, and Treta Krishna ji came, how can you say such things about him? Allah, Islam is a very recent religion or discovery. To which she said, no, no, पैगंबर मोहम्मद एक संत थे, और क्या बोलते हैं, और पैगंबर मोहम्मद एक संत थे, और इस्लाम अल्लाह ने ही इस धरती को बनाया है, और बाकी सब कुछ जो आप लोग हम पूछते आ रहे हैं वो इंसान है, वो कोई भगवान नहीं थे। इसके बाद क्या होता है कि इसमें जो मैंने स्टोरी की है, जिसमें हम मलेशिया वाले एंगल को डिस्कस कर रहे हैं, उस चीज पर आते हैं अब। तो इस लड़की के साथ ये सारी डिस्कशन होती है, तब भी वो कन्विंस नहीं होती है। उसके बाद उसके सामने और फैक्ट्स रखे जाते हैं। तब इस डिस्कशन के दौरान वो बताती है कि मेरे डॉक्यूमेंट्स जो ओरिजिनल है, पैन कार्ड, आधार कार्ड, पासपोर्ट, मेरे सारे ग्रेजुएशन पोस्ट ग्रेड के डॉक्यूमेंट्स आर विथ किसके पास है, दानिश के पास है। और उसने सारे ओरिजिनल डॉक्यूमेंट्स ये बोल के लिए हुए हैं कि मैं तुम्हारा प्लेसमेंट मलेशिया में कराऊंगा। मेरे साथ 12 और लड़कियों ने अपने डॉक्यूमेंट्स दानिश को दिए हैं, जिसके बेसिस पर वो एक इमरान नाम के लड़के से हम लोगों को कनेक्ट कराता है मलेशिया में, जो उन्हें वीडियोस दिखाता है लड़कियों की कि उनकी लाइफ कैसे बेटर हुई है। इस सब के डिस्कशन के दौरान दानिश उसे कहता है कि तुम्हारे पेरेंट्स तुम्हारी शादी करके तुम्हारी लाइफ खत्म कर देंगे, एंड यू विल हैव नथिंग, नो कंट्रोल इन योर लाइफ, टू टेक चार्ज and get out of this emotional trap and shift to Malaysia, live there, make your life better. They would take out them to resorts and places, just to show that कि लाइफ कितनी बेहतर हो सकती है अगर तुम हमारे हिसाब से रहो तो। और उसके बाद फिर क्या किया जाता है, इन लड़कियों का बैंक में अकाउंट खुलवाया जाता है। उस बैंक में अकाउंट खुलवाने के लिए डॉक्यूमेंट्स तो इन लड़कियों के होते हैं, लेकिन जो कॉन्टैक्ट नंबर्स होता है, जो एक्सेस होता है, वो दानिश और रजा के पास होता है। उसके बाद इस लड़की के अकाउंट में, दलित महिला के अकाउंट से 18 लाख रुपए का ट्रांजैक्शन होता है। और इस ट्रांजैक्शन की डिटेल जब उससे शेयर की जाती है, और ये बताया जाता है कि दानिश सिर्फ तुम्हारे साथ ऐसा नहीं कर रहा है, ऑफिस में और भी महिलाएं हैं जिनके साथ वो ये कर रहा है। उसके बाद शी गेट्स एंग्री, और फिर तब जाकर उसने ये कंप्लेन करी है। तो इस लेवल का ग्रूमिंग, इस लेवल का टारगेटिंग और इस लेवल की प्लानिंग इस ऑफिस में चल रही थी। ये सिर्फ इस महिला के साथ नहीं, इन लोगों ने बहुत सारी महिला के साथ किया है। जो मेल विक्टिम इस केस में सामने आया है, उसने ये तक बताया है कि ये लोग पैसे ऑफर कर रहे थे हिंदू लड़कियों को टारगेट करने के लिए। दे वुड से कि हिंदू को, लड़की को लेकर आओ और उसे कन्वर्ट करो एंड यू विल गेट मनी। इवन द एचआर जो अश्विनी इस केस में है, शी इज नॉट जस्ट अक्यूज, शी इज अ विक्टिम of grooming Jihad, and she has been groomed so much that उसको अब ये मेरे पास उसका एक्चुअल डेटा नहीं है कि उसे ग्रूम किया जा रहा था या उसे ब्लैकमेल करके ये सारा काम करवाया जा रहा था। क्योंकि ये जो मेल विक्टिम है, उसने अपनी टेस्टिमनी में, वीडियो में जो एनडीटीवी को उसने इंटरव्यू दिया, उसमें वो बता रहा है कि एक बार उसने एचआर को कन्फ्रंट होते देखा है, जिसमें रजा और दानिश तौसीफ उससे कह रहे हैं कि क्यों नई हिंदू लड़कियां आ रही हैं, मतलब दे वुड नीड अ कैश ऑफ हिंदू गर्ल्स एवरी नाउ एंड देन। अभी जो पुलिस ने ऑपरेशन किया, उसमें भी इसी पैटर्न को फॉलो किया उन्होंने कि लड़का मुसलमान होना चाहिए और लड़कियां हिंदू होनी चाहिए। उसके बाद आपके डॉक्यूमेंट्स, आपका क्वालिफिकेशन कुछ मैटर नहीं करता, दे विल हायर यू। इस तरीके से हायरिंग हो रही थी वहां पे सिलेक्टिवली, और उन्हें टारगेट किया जा रहा था, उन्हें कन्वर्ट कराने की कोशिश, उन्हें एक्सप्लॉइट। अभी इस महिला ने जब दानिश को अंततः कन्वर्ट मतलब कन्फ्रंट किया, तो उसने क्या कहा इससे कि मेरा तुमसे शादी करने का तो कभी प्लान ही नहीं था। मतलब व्हाट वाज द प्लान देन? व्हाई वाज ही डूइंग एवरीथिंग टू हर जस्ट टू गेट हर कन्वर्टेड टू इस्लाम? मतलब जब उसको उससे शादी भी नहीं करनी थी, इतनी सारी चीजें उसने की, और वाई वाज महरीन सपोर्टिंग हर? अभी तो महरीन, अभी आज इंडियन एक्सप्रेस ने महरीन का इंटरव्यू छाप दिया ये कहकर कि रिलेशनशिप गॉन रॉन्ग, और उस जबकि वो इक्वली मतलब इस केस में इन्वॉल्व है, शी शुड बी, अभी तक उसको अरेस्ट होना चाहिए था, उसको पुलिस कस्टडी में होना चाहिए था, बट ऐसा नहीं है। यहाँ पे इंडियन एक्सप्रेस आर्टिकल्स छाप रहे हैं उनके स्टेटमेंट के बेसिस पे। तो इस तरीके की चीजें अब तक हुई हैं। और भी केस की डिटेल्स हैं, मतलब मैं दो तीन चीज केसेस को क्लब करके बताती हूँ। जैसे मैंने बताया कि 6 अनमैरिड और 2 मैरिड महिलाएं हैं विक्टिम इस केस में। तो जो 2 मैरिड महिलाएं हैं उसमें से एक 35 ईयर्स की महिला है, जिसका जिनको 11 साल का एक्सपीरियंस है आईटी सेक्टर में काम करने का, और 7 साल से वो इस नासिक के ऑफिस में काम कर रही हैं। उनकी टेस्टिमनी में बहुत ज्यादा वैसे डिटेल्स नहीं है, बट शी हैड फेस्ड सो मच अब्यूज विथ, मतलब इस तरीके का अब्यूज, मतलब इफ शी इज सिटिंग दे विल लुक इनटू हर चेस्ट एरिया, they would comment to her saying that have you brought oranges, what size of oranges you have brought today, to another woman who was a weightlifter, or she was bulky, and so they would comment on her shape saying that do you like the big one or smaller one, and the another two girls are there, one is 23-year-old and old, and the other is 24-year-old. These two women were questioned about their boyfriends, about their, if they had boyfriend, if they like anyone, and if they don't. All of this happened how Raza, who had nothing to do with the training of these women, would come to the training space and question the girls if they reach safely, how they like the office, if they like it or not like it, and things like that to begin conversation. Later on, after asking if they have boyfriends or not, and when they said they did not want to disclose anything, he said that I like you. Uh, and this also has a pattern. So टू एक लड़की को शाफी नाम का लड़का टारगेट करता है, इस तरीके के ही क्वेश्चन करता है, 24 साल की जो महिला है। और उसके बाद उससे जब उस वो फेडअप हो जाती है, तो रजा, क्योंकि टीम लीडर था, उसके पास जाकर कंप्लेन करती है। तो रजा शाफी और इस महिला को बुलाता है अपने सामने और दोनों को कॉम्प्रो करा देता है ये बोलकर कि आगे से ऐसा नहीं होगा। उसके अगले दिन से रजा इस महिला से क्वेश्चन करने लगता है कि तुम्हारा बॉयफ्रेंड है, मैं तुम्हें पसंद करता हूँ, तुम क्या मेरे साथ रिलेशनशिप में आ जाओ। अब जो एक तो 35 साल की मैरिड महिला है, दूसरी एक महिला है जिसकी अभी अभी शादी हुई है, और उसका हस्बैंड पुणे में रहता है और वो नासिक में रहकर काम कर रही है। शी लुक्स वेरी ब्यूटीफुल, और उससे बार बार शाहरुख, दानिश, तौसीफ इस तरीके के सवाल करते हैं कि तुम्हारा हस्बैंड कैसा है, तुम्हें इतनी जल्दी शादी हुई है तुम्हारी और छोड़कर चला गया। दे दे क्वेश्चन कि क्या तुम्हारी शादी से पहले कोई बॉयफ्रेंड्स थे कि नहीं थे, और जिस पर वो शायद उनसे उसने डिटेल शेयर कर दी होगी, तो इस पर से वो लोग कहते हैं कि यू आर अ प्लेयर, उसको ऑफिस में प्लेयर कहकर बुलाने लगते हैं। दे वुड क्वेश्चन इफ यू हैव डन इट विद देम ऑल्सो, if your mother-in-law comes to know about this, then what will happen? They would question, तुम हनीमून पर गई थी, so what you did there, and और क्या बोलते हैं, जो आसिफ है और शाफी है वो इस एक्सटेंट तक जाते हैं इस महिला के साथ, saying that your husband does not live here, you should come out with us and we will give you all pleasure. And they also say that um, that you if your husband is not happy with you, let us know, we will tell you what to do and how to do. They also told her that if your husband lives out and if you have any physical desire, we will fulfill it. So such I mean, say I would say lousy comments used to be, these used to be discussions from Hindu deity to personal life to their sexual life to husbands and what not. They have done everything to these women. 35 ईयर्स की जो महिला है उनको इतना ज्यादा अनकंफर्टेबल फील कराया कि शी इवन क्राइड इन द ऑफिस। और उसके बाद व्हेन शी वेंट टू अश्विनी टू कंप्लेन अबाउट एवरीथिंग, व्हाट शी सेड, ऐसा हर ऑफिस में होता रहता है। दिस वाज द स्टेट, मतलब वो महिलाएं किसके पास जाती, किससे कंप्लेन करती? अगर इस महिला के फैमिली वालों ने, इसकी फ्रेंड ने ऑब्जर्व अगर इसके चेंजेस नहीं किए होते, ना इसके पेरेंट्स को बताया होता, तो ये केस कभी बाहर ही नहीं आता। ये सारी चीजें एफआईआर और इन सब कंप्लेंट लेटर्स में लिखी हुई है। मैं मेल विक्टिम की एफआईआर में क्या लिखा हुआ है ये भी बता दूं। तो इस लड़के को बार बार ये लोग क्योंकि ये एक मतलब रिलीजियस किस्म का लड़का था, जिसके डेस्क पर भगवान सदगुरु की फोटो, भगवान की फोटो होती थी, यूज टू वेयर तुलसी माला। तो बार बार उससे आकर पूछते थे कि क्या सच में भगवान होते हैं? क्या महादेव सच में भगवान है, या वो हमारे मुस्लिम्स के रिप्रेजेंटेटिव हैं, या कुछ इस तरीके के क्वेश्चन पूछते थे बार बार उससे। भी एक यही कहते थे कि महादेव का एग्जिस्टेंस, गणेश जी का एग्जिस्टेंस, हनुमान जी का, जो मैंने आपको स्टार्टिंग में बताया, उस तरीके की सारी बातें इससे कहते थे। बीच में इसके पिताजी की तबीयत खराब होती है, उन्हें पैरालिसिस अटैक होता है। तो उस समय वो इससे कहते हैं कि जो तुम पूजा पाठ करे उससे कुछ नहीं होने वाला, ओनली योर फादर विल गेट क्योर्ड इफ यू फॉलो इस्लाम एंड इफ यू ऑफर नमाज। एक दिन दानिश इसे ईद की दावत पर घर बुलाता है, और वहां पर इसे टोपी पहना देता है और अपने साथ बिठाकर नमाज पढ़वाता है, सब कुछ करता है, कलमा भी पढ़ा देता है, और उसकी फोटो ऑफिस ग्रुप में सर्कुलेट कर देता है। और नेक्स्ट डे जब वो कहता है कि ऐसा क्यों किया तुमने, तो फिर उसका मजाक बनाया जाने लगता है उसे। और उसे स्पेसिफिकली टारगेट किया जाता है, उस पर एक्सेसिव वर्कलोड दे दिया जाता है क्योंकि वो इनकी बातों में नहीं आता। उसकी शादी हुई है, 6-7 साल हुए हैं शादी को, और उसका दे डोंट हैव अ चाइल्ड। तो उसकी मैस्कुलिनिटी पे क्वेश्चन करते हैं, उसकी वाइफ पे क्वेश्चन करने लगते हैं कि व्हाई डोंट यू हैव अ चाइल्ड। ऐसे ही ऑफिस में एक शादीशुदा महिला है जिनके बच्चे नहीं हो रहे हैं, उनको ये तक कहा गया कि अजमेर शरीफ दरगाह के एक मौलाना का नंबर देते हैं, उनसे बात करो, वहां जाकर सब कुछ हो जाएगा। तो मतलब हर तरीके से कोशिश की गई, कोई भी एंगल इन लोगों ने मिस नहीं किया। मतलब और मॉडस ऑपरेंडी क्या था इन लोगों को फंसाने का? एक एक पहले तो ये आइडेंटिफाई करते थे कि कौन सी महिला वल्नरेबल है, मतलब कौन अकेली रहती है, किसका हस्बैंड यहाँ नहीं रहता, कौन परिवार से थोड़ी पीड़ित है, या किसके बच्चे नहीं है, किसकी तबीयत खराब है। इस तरीके से ये अपने विक्टिम्स को आइडेंटिफाई करते थे। उसके बाद उनके साथ व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप्स बनाते थे, जिसमें उनकी प्रॉपर ब्रेन वॉशिंग की जाती थी। उन्हें कंटेंट्स इस तरीके के भेजे जाते थे, क्लेरिक्स के, और रिलीजियस टेक्स्ट वहां पर दिया जाता था उन्हें बार बार, ताकि वो एक तरीके से प्रिपेयर हो जाए। उसके अलावा इनका सारे जो भी मुस्लिम वर्कर्स हैं ऑफिस के, उन सबका एक सेपरेट व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप था, जहां पे दे वुड डिस्कस देयर पोटेंशियल नेक्स्ट टारगेट। और फिर और नया विक्टिम भी वहां पर आइडेंटिफाई करते थे, और फिर उसके बाद उसको उसके लिए प्लॉट प्रिपेयर करके, और फिर सिस्टमैटिकली, सो दिस इज नॉट एनी आइसोलेटेड इंसिडेंट, दिस इज अ सिस्टमैटिक टारगेटिंग and has been done in a very planned manner. And this should be treated as a collective crime, and they should all be tried together in the most stringent manner possible. I'm sure Sir will share the legal aspect and how they can be tried. I will also learn from him, because as of now, I will say that the anti-conversion laws, which are enacted in as many as 12 states across Bharat, they are not sufficient to curb this menace. We need a more stringent and a pan-India law for this. And the sections or the charges, the sections under which these accused get booked under the anti-religious conversion law, the punishment ranges from 5 year to 10 year, which is not sufficient, and it is bailable also. After 2 years, the accused gets out and begins threatening the victim again. So, is this how we are going to, punish the accused who have given the trauma of lifetime to these women? So that this is all I have to say. If anything needs to be added, I will.
So as I was listening to you, I have in the last 3 years particularly followed immigration to Canada and how women get exploited in Canada by Khalistanis and Pakistanis. And the eerie similarity is mind numbing. मैं तो बोल रहा हूँ निखिल, मैं तेरे को कितनी बार ऑफ द रिकॉर्ड बोल चुका हूँ ये फोन पे कि कैसे दे एक्चुअली टारगेट द मोस्ट वल्नरेबल इवन इन कनाडा दे नो हुम टू टारगेट। किसको उनको मालूम होता है कि पंजाब में इसके पूरे जमीन बिक चुकी है, या इंडिया में दे यूज द ऑनर कल्चर, द शेम कल्चर सो इफेक्टिवली So they, it's mind numbing. Like, I remember a case. I'm not going to talk about name. I'm not even going to name the, the fake name of the girl here, but this girl's passport was taken up. This girl used to be forced to go to Vegas with a pimp for stripping. The pimp would travel with her passport. This girl was always under. And this is, I'm talking about pimp Punjabi, girl Punjabi. And then obviously I know of three houses in and around a GTA, Greater Toronto Area, Gurdwara, where 45 women live. They pay $300. And the owner of the house allegedly uses this low rent for sexual favors. All the actions are overlapping here. All the actions. What the Khalistanis and the Pakistanis in Canada do, and what I'm hearing over here. It's insane, insane. But Nikhil, now I hand it over to you. You've heard a lot of details. Abhi kya kya law ka kya hoega bata?
See, Kushal, I'm a little bit short-handed, and I think sometimes on the legal analysis, it feels like things come a little too early because the investigation, what shape it will actually take, is not quite clear as yet, right? So Shubhi's described so many of the facts, but she doesn't talk about, for example, the undercover police officers, what role they played, what kind of evidence they've collected, and all of that gets treated very differently when it comes from defense side as well. But I don't want to confuse too many things too quickly. So let's first take something very important that Shubhi said, which is this should be prosecuted as a collective act, right? And if you start, and the reason why that is important is if you start parsing out independent actions and independent offenses, then it starts to seem more trivial, right? The most severe action would be the first FIR, where in fact Tausif's action is perhaps worse than Danish's action. Let me put it that way to you. Danish's defense, if I were Danish, and just the quick reminder, is the FIR there is section 69 of the BNS, which is and I'll read it, and you, when I read it, you'll realize how hard it is for anything to potentially fit there, because be very mindful of one thing. When it comes to criminal law, it is strict interpretation. You don't get to go jumping around trying to find fresh interpretations for things. Criminal law means that there has to be clarity of what you can do, cannot do to any accused person at the time at which they're committing the offense. Therefore, when they are tried for that offense and when they are finally found guilty, it is to a very tight definition of the section, right? So the section is whoever by deceitful means or by making promise to marry a woman without any intention of fulfilling the same and has sexual intercourse with her, such sexual intercourse not amounting to the offense of rape, shall be punished with the imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 10 years and shall also be liable to fine. Deceitful means false promise of employment or promotion, inducement, or marrying after suppressing identity. Now, I don't know whether in the course of our employment these things came about. When Shubhi described the facts of this particular FIR, my first impression was 69 falls apart, qua Danish, because the sexual act occurs without any promise of marriage whatsoever, firstly. Persistent sexual acts continue after the wife enters the picture and is actually goading and inducing this particular complainant to continue that relationship, right? So there is no falseness to it. When I read the section, there has to be some kind of false inducement. So the lack of truth in that inducement doesn't exist, right? There are other sections that deal with power in the context of rape, right? That deal with your superior position in the context of exploitation of people. So these are applied quite often in the context of bosses, say, versus secretaries and stuff like that, right? Because you have a controlling position there. That will apply, for example, in the post-employment stages, potentially, particularly to Tausif. Because the way the narrative to Tausif is framed is that he says, now he takes the vulnerability and says, I will he doesn't say, unlike in this section, he doesn't say, I'll give you a promotion. He says, I will, the element of shaming, and if you do not agree to sleep with me, and then she's compelled to also sleep with him. Now there are other elements within that same FIR which relate to physical harassment on the premises, in the workplace, potentially captured on CCTV, but those are much lesser offenses, right? So this is why I'm doing this right now, is I want to break down each to individual offenses and then point out why this larger conjoining of everything is so important. And then eventually, when I finish off with this, I'll point out why Indian law has a lot of gaps when it has to deal with something like this kind of behavior, right? So that's the first one. And don't be fooled by the Indian Express story today. That is a legal defense team that has come up with their version. Take it from me right now. It may be a story that quotes the wife of the principal accused, but that's the line that they're going to take. It's a relationship gone wrong. And that is, you will find innumerable number of bail orders and quashing orders in relation to this specific section and its predecessor section and its predecessor laws that always speak of how a relationship going sour cannot be the basis of a prosecution under this section. Right? That's exactly what they set up right away. Now, where this case is different from individual situations of similar precedent-based cases is the connection between everybody and the organization they work for. One. Two, the connection between the persons who are the principal perpetrators of these individual separate actions, right? Because if you look at the other actions, they're actually very easily explained away. And if you look at what the defense lawyers are already saying, they're saying commonplace day-to-day interaction is being trumped up and made into an offense, right? So one person will say, a woman will say, my discomfort is he's staring at my breasts and making comments. And he said, well, I'm not staring at her breasts. Who's going to prove that? Almost impossible to prove, right? So maybe a CCTV footage will exist for something, or how is, from a CCTV angle, even from a CCTV angle, how are you going to say, what is he staring at? Right? How do you establish that discomfort? That will need corroborative testimony, plenty of it from others. That is where the undercover police officers become very important, because they become testimony, they become witnesses, right? That's the systemization. And that's a very important element to all of this. Now, how does systemization affect or arise in Indian law? It arises through two routes, primarily. Section 3 and Section 61. The new sections. In old money, there were Section 34, Section 141, and Section 120B, conspiracy. They're different in the way they operate. Now, as I see the FIRs today, and the FIR will not be outcome determinative on this, the charge sheet will. All right. But the FIRs as they stand today, they say Section 3, subclause 5 is being used, which is common intention. Now, the problem with common intention is, what is the idea here? That what Danish is doing, right, Shahrukh should also be guilty of. That's the idea behind common intention, because they all intend. But the law is, you have to have shared that intention, okay, to do that specific act. That's a very difficult standard to meet. And certainly, qua the first FIR, therefore the others are not named as accused in the second FIR, in the first FIR. And that is why. I mean, let's go even a step further back. That's why I analyze this. All of this is occurring. Why did we need 9 FIRs? Right? 9 FIRs occur because 9 different complainants speak of 9 separate incidents. Now, they will all be tried separately. I would be very surprised, or at least the state will push for trial of all of them together, because they establish a systemized behavior. They will push for it, but the defense will not allow it. They will have every one of these separate FIRs to be prosecuted individually. And if you prosecute them individually, they become a lot lighter. Right? So in the first FIR, the others are not named, only 2 people are named. I think I'm correct in saying that, Subhi. That's only Danish and Tawseef.
Yes, sir. Right.
And then as you move down, in other FIRs, 1 or 2 karke people are named. Right? So you are now creating this common intention qua these one or two people, two very specific incidents. When you start prosecuting them to those very specific incidents, to those very specific FIRs, your punishments are going to be low. You take that from me in writing today. Okay. Common intention will nonetheless, even to those limited FIRs, require that both of the two or three people, whoever are named as accused in that particular FIR, had the common intention in the sense of they all intended the same thing to occur. And intention is very different from an agreement to do a thing. I may agree with someone that some bad behavior has to occur. I may not have the intention for it to take the shape that it took. Right? I may agree with you that this person must be entrapped, but I don't have the intention of the specific action you undertake of sitting next to her and groping her and harassing her physically. Okay? And I know this is going to sound very negative and very discouraging, but everybody should know what reality is, right? So let's come back down to earth. And that does not mean that I am in any way, manner, or form saying to any one of the following two things. One, that the absence of proof implies that an event didn't occur, first. Second, that this larger pattern of behavior is not massively problematic, often recurring, and highly communalized. All right? All of those things may be true, but your law is not up to date with this. Now, I wanted to sort of come to this common area, this common intention, this common pattern thing. There are elements of evidence here that will satisfy the exact test I am talking about. Okay? Do not assume that the people who are named in an FIR at the initial stage are the only people who will be prosecuted for that particular offense. Because by the time the charge sheet arrives and all the evidence is collated, it may well be that Nida is responsible for every single one of them in some form or the other. Right? But bearing in mind the common intention problem, Nida may be giving you names that does not mean Nida participated in the rape or facilitated the rape. Nida may be giving you names that does not mean Nida intended commonly with you for the kind of behavior you undertake, say in the pantry or somewhere else or something else. Right? So she has a defense there. So this is why I'm trying to explain all of this in sort of sharper detail so that people start to get that there are problems in prosecuting cases like this. And again, that does not mean things didn't happen and things aren't bad. So this is how cases are dealt with at early stages. Compare this with the law of grooming. Now, we repeatedly keep using the word grooming, right? And we don't use it just here. We use it in several kind of cases. We use them in the cases in case of POXO, etc. Either POXO has substantially more provisions akin to a grooming law. Okay, this particular legislation does not. And she was very wise in pointing out that the anti-conversion statute absolutely does not. And that is why, as far as I can tell, and I don't know, Subhi, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think an anti-conversion charge has been brought in any FIR so far. Because nothing
No,
moved
it was not.
stage of conversion. Nothing moved there, right? But you and I all understand, as a matter of practical reality, this is the groundwork for conversion. Right? But the law will not accept that. The threshold is not met. So, I know I'm boring by repetition on this. When I start slicing and dicing every single FIR, every single incident, attributing to every single individual separately, the whole thing starts to look a lot less murky. Okay? And that's because the laws that you have do not have anything that will take it all together and say this is an enterprise. All right? This is what the law of grooming is in the UK, for example. And even in the UK, this intention problem that I spoke to you about, that you must have intended the same thing, has been introduced by a judgment called R versus Jogi. Right? And it creates this same problem with prosecutability there. But they have a number of other provisions, a number of other intervention points at which the police can step in. For example, you are an elder person who is constantly contacting a younger person, a younger girl, a younger boy, whoever it may be, Once that is exposed to the police, they have the right to come and impose any kind of controlling requirement upon you. May not go to arrest, but it may certainly go to saying that you will not further contact this person. And any violation of that behavior becomes a violation of terms imposed upon you and may lead to future arrest. Right? If you look at that particular action independently, it's not a criminal act. Right? I may be roaming around schools as an elder person. This happens a lot in America. Megan's Law introduced all of this. I am an older man and I roam around schools or I sit at park benches staring at children. I can be acted upon by the police. I can at least be questioned. I can then be asked to vacate. And if my behavior is persistent, then further actions can be taken against me. But if you look at it, the action by itself is absolutely non-criminal. It's completely innocent action. Anybody is permitted to take that action. You don't have these triggers in Indian law. Right? You don't have these triggers. So when you're repeating, so let me put it this way to you. You don't just pop up to a person and say, hey, convert to Islam. Right? You can, but you don't. The process you choose is first beat down your culture. Break you down mentally, break you down emotionally. Right? And that is where the both of you have spoken about people who are vulnerable. Yeah, people who are vulnerable are always picked out. Always picked out for this. They're picked out by everybody, by the way. They're picked out by...
It's by design.
Religion.
It's by design.
In Dhurandhar, Jaskir is also a vulnerable person, right? He's on death row. He has to suddenly do whatever has to be done to survive. Vulnerability is an imperative. So vulnerability is then tested. And it is tested by hammering down on your religion and your culture, right?
Nikhil, if you don't mind, can I ask you a question here?
Go ahead.
So where does the law actually, because तूने अभी ये vulnerability की बात की, इसके लिए I apologize to come in between, but where does, this is like that Socrates paradox, where when does, specks of sand become a giant, giant, like individual grains, when do they become a giant pool itself, like a mountain of sand? The problem is, where does it become statistically significant, where you can say, now you're screwed legally?
No,
because I understand the intention. ये कैसे law में वो कैसे आता है?
Why I designed this is
because this is very important. We need to understand. People get emotional on the internet, but eventually cases have to be fought in the freaking courts.
Yeah, sure. When you look at the prosecutions that were being attempted in the United States, say for Rochdale, for Oxford, for Rotherham, right? These are all well-known names dealing with grooming gangs. It was the WhatsApp messages that were imperative, because you were clear evidence in these groups and in individual messages that you're passing one person on to the other, right? And therefore, you are a coordinated set of actors. You are not individual actors, but you're a coordinated set of actors. And slowly, that evidence becomes so clear that it becomes systemized. And then you can be prosecuted for a systemized action. That systemized action, even in the UK, they didn't go that far. They didn't meet the threshold. But that systemized, let me give you an example of this. What do the UK critiques speak of when they speak of these grooming gangs? They keep saying, the far right in the UK, and they criticize for it, but they keep saying, the entire community is in the know. The entire community is involved. People are presenting people to, like this. They keep saying this, right? But the law doesn't do that. The law doesn't do that. She very astutely says, why isn't Mehra in this? But Mehra will say, or Mehreen, I think her name is, Mehreen will say, I am following my religion. He is allowed a second wife. I am required by my religion to scout a second wife. That's all I did.
Yeah, that's where this uniform civil code argument comes. Like, I'm not going to take. I'm not going to take that.
We'll deal with that separately, right? So I'm just trying to explain how common intention, conspiracy, and then what I would want in India to be a law, grooming kind of law, a RICO kind of law, a racketeering kind of law, and a common enterprise kind of law to exist, right? With better definitions, with better examples. Take this kind of case and say,
Nikhil,
this
RICO is an American law, right? American law.
So, yeah, RICO is what was used to eventually destroy the mafia.
Nikhil, by the way, Canada does not have RICO laws, and the only reason that Gora gangster, जो खालिस्तानी जिसके लिए logistics करते थे, you know why he got caught? Because America had RICO laws. कनाडा
There you
उसको
go.
पकड़ नहीं पा रहा था नहीं तो.
There you go, right? So you can start nabbing people in preparatory acts that may otherwise be innocent seeming acts, right? Otherwise, if I go under the law of conspiracy, I have to prove that there was an agreement pre-existing between the final
I,
perpetrator and this person,
Sir,
right?
I just want to tell you something. As you were saying that police ने क्या confiscate किया है वहाँ से? They have collected 176 chats and emails between the जो भी
Subhi,
communication
I
हो रहा
won't
था
need
इन
to
लोगों
put
के बीच
numbers
में.
to
That
them.
is.
Let's just broadly say they've got CCTV footage, they've got telephonic devices, they've got computer devices. This will have WhatsApp, this will have SMS, this will have emails, all of it. Let's just assume it's all there, right?
Yeah, it's there.
Conspiracy will require that at the time at which I am doing an act, Nida is providing a profile of a person, that there is in fact an agreement between Nida and the persons who are receiving that particular profile, that they are going to perpetrate certain acts of illegality against her. At least an agreement. Okay. And for section 3, she has to have the common intention, that is the same intention as they have to perpetrate the act that they will commit. Right? And the difference between the two is, when I have an agreement, I have a broad understanding that something illegal will be done. But when I have the common intention, I have a specific understanding of what will be done, which is illegal. These are very hard standards to meet to put everything together. Right? So I just want to give you an idea of how all of this sort of operates. Okay? How it would operate anywhere else. In the UK, for example, sorry, I'm just going to set up my device so that I did this research. In the UK, there is section 15A of the Sexual Offences Act. That is sexual communication with a child, meeting a child following sexual grooming. You're meeting a child. And there is a prior event, a prior message that may be of a sexualized nature, maybe even an encoded sexualized nature. That's enough to form an offense, right? So let's apply it to our example. Nida gives you the profile, right? And immediately Danish or Tausif or whoever it may be starts messaging or starts behaving in a particularly sexualized way with this other person. That's harassment. That's sexual harassment. That's section 69, 70, 70, that entire species of sections that have been imposed in these particular cases, right? They are still low punishment, but they are at least punishment, right? What common enterprise laws do is, when they realize that this is being done with a common enterprise intention across an entire institution, is to enhance punishment as well. You will not get that in this case. Take it from me. You will not get that in this case. So,
अच्छा, तो मेरे को एक फिर बात बता, ये जो NIA का एंगल आया है, तो वहां पे तो फिर
I want to keep
powers
NIA
अप्रतिम हो
separate.
जाती
I want
हैं.
to keep NIA separate. Okay. My understanding, I'm going to look at NIA purely as a hard lawyer and say NIA probably looks at the Malaysian angle and wants to establish that there is a foreign conspiracy. But be clear about this: the current SIT chief in Nashik has made a statement to the effect that it looks like Tausif came, he got radicalized after visiting some place, and then he radicalized the others slowly. Okay? He does not speak of any foreign action here. He does not speak of any foreign element here. If you had foreign elements, if you had targeted behavior being directed towards them, that you will do this, you will do this, you will do this, you might even have gone under UAPA. You might even have. I'm not going to say that you definitely would have, but you might even have that. That's what the NIA's real remit is. The NIA will be chasing down money. There are, as she pointed out, इन्होंने बैंक अकाउंट्स वगैरह खुलवाए थे on the inducement that you will be given a job in Malaysia. That job may exist, may not exist. This person, Imran, may be real, may not be real. NIA will investigate all of that. To at least one person from my reading, an account was set up and 18 lakh rupees were paid in by that person. Okay. But the OTPs were retained by these folks. So the person paying the money in whose name the account is opened is not given control of their own bank account. Right? That could be the start of at least criminal misappropriation, potentially going up to cheating.
Human trafficking, yeah.
Human trafficking will have to be with a much higher charge. that needs many more elements to be proved. So that's the NIA's job. So let's keep NIA separate. I just want to complete the point I was making about how other countries would set up in this kind of prosecution versus how we are, and why we are short-handed. And so you know, if you are short-handed, you are short-handed. You have to accept these things, and then perhaps look at a case like this and say the overall pattern of behavior here is so egregious that we must reform ourselves in terms of the law we have to have in place. In relation, for example, to uh, mafia in Bombay, you had in Maharashtra, it set up the Makoka. The Makoka looks at conspiracies differently. Right? It establishes your behavior patterns differently. It prosecutes differently for that reason. Okay. And so, because that is hard criminal enterprise. So the concept of a joint enterprise is not alien to Indian law. It's just limited, is limited to very, very specific cases. We need a joint enterprise concept in a very loose way where larger actions can be brought in together and commonly prosecuted for common crimes, for common offenses of this nature as well. Right? Because this is not just sexual grooming. This is not just sexual harassment. It has a layer of communalism on top of it. What was that comment?
किसी ने लिखा था कोई इतना बेवकूफ नहीं होता कि ऐसे ट्रैप्ड हो जाए. मैंने जानबूझ के उसको हाईलाइट किया, मैं बाद में उसका जवाब दूंगा.
नहीं होता है. वल्नरेबिलिटी लोग समझते
नहीं, मैं इसीलिए मैं इंसल्ट करने वाला हूँ ऐसे लोगों की. देखो, वो मेरा काम है, वो तेरा और सुभी का काम नहीं है. बेइज्जती मैं करूंगा लोगों की.
ठीक है. But what they changed, for example, I was telling you, the joint enterprise concept, the common purpose concept existed for the longest time in English law under the Criminal Justice Act in 1967. We also have something similar, but we're going to struggle to prove. Honestly, is what I'm worried about. Making it into one stretched, larger conspiracy. I don't think even the police are trying that, and that is why it is 9 FIRs as of now. NIA may come in, may do differently. More evidence may emerge, and they may eventually club all FIRs and make one mega FIR and say everything comes under this. They may do that going forward, but today that is not their purpose, and that's what any dedicated police officer in India would do. They know they don't have the legal tools to go the other route that I've been talking about, right? In Australia, for example, in relation to grooming and the crimes and the Section 49B of the Crimes Act, they have a criminal organization legislation, but that requires a specific organization. You won't find an organization of that sort separate of TCS over here. America, I spoke to you about RICO. RICO has a very interesting concept of pattern of racketeering activity, right? So you could be doing somewhat innocent things, but those are signaling and creating the pattern of the bad behavior that follows thereafter. And Germany is probably the most important one, which says, which has a concept of network liability in grooming cases, that harm caused by coordinated exploitation is qualitatively different from individual offending. So if you are part of that same network and you're proposing that network keep doing the things that it is doing, then you would have this particular liability. You don't necessarily have that here. By the way, you're going to see a lot of these same concepts emerge in the Umar Khalid prosecution and the Shajil Imam prosecution, because a lot of that is based upon common intention that is derived from membership of certain WhatsApp groups on which much is being discussed. Right? So that's sort of the lay of the land in terms of the law. Please don't be so disheartened. There's many things that people will be prosecuted for, and including the organization will have a lot to answer for. And if I were TCS today, I would conduct an internal inquiry and perhaps launch an FIR of my own.
Now, here's the thing.
They can take this unsolicited advice from me. They need to do their inquiry, find out more facts, present more evidence, and register their own FIR against everybody.
Yeah, so 2-3 comments I'll make. वो क्या होता है कि जब लोग तुझे सुनते हैं ना, तो वो लोग थोड़े डिप्रेस हो जाते हैं, बोलते हैं वकील साहब ऐसे लंबी बातें करते हैं, बताओ मरने वाले हैं कि नहीं. आदमी एकदम सिंपल ह्यूरिस्टिक्स में सोचता है. आदमी इंसान है ना.
And that's why right at the start I said, to me, I'm entering this a little too early. Right? So when we were discussing ये podcast करनी, मैंने आपको कहा था आप शुभी के साथ बैठो, present the facts fully. Right? And you could even had another journalist to present more even. साथ में, राइट? एंड ये स्टोरी डेवलप होगी, और जब लीगल साइड डेवलप होगी तब मैं आगे आ जाऊंगा. अभी जो मैंने बोला है, ये मैं भी, आई आल्सो एक्सेप्ट यार, आई एम आल्सो वेरी स्पेकुलेटिव स्टेज. I
देखो
hope
मैं
I'm wrong on everything, but generally on legal knowledge, I'm generally not wrong.
So I will just say one thing to people, not that I endorse this, but इंडिया में किसी ना किसी तरीके से जस्टिस जरूर मिलता है.
हाँ, कहीं
इट्स
ना
ऑल
कहीं
आई
मिले,
विल से.
चाहे
किधर
खराब
ना किधर
जजमेंट से
मिल
मिले,
जाता,
मिलता जरूर है।
मिलता जरूर है इंडिया में. मतलब कभी कभी ऐसे गाड़ियां पलट जाती हैं, फिर कुछ लोग बोलते हैं साहब हम ना ही बैठे रहे एम्बुलेंस में. बोला कहा है हम पैदल जाई साहब. पता नहीं क्या होता है इंडिया में, पता नहीं होता.
देखो, I want to sound a note of caution here, Kushal. A lot of this outrage is because of the communal angle, right? The sense of conversion, the sense of denial of your
द
this stuff.
प्रेडेशन मैन, द प्रेडेटरी नेचर.
One second. The predatory nature is inherent in any such activity. It is inherent. You cannot see if I even in borderline consensual, maybe light inducement conversion, right? Predation is inherent. Even in ghar wapsi, predation is inherent. So don't let's not get confused. But the communal angle is charged. It's higher, and it makes everybody angrier, particularly because you look at the critiques that come through various religions. That stuff, you don't also want that you create a situation where merely say in the office space critiquing gods automatically becomes something which is actionable against a person. You can't go
Okay,
down that path.
I have a question for Subhi. Subhi, when you were, looking at the facts of this case, what is the role of TCS in all of this? Like, what could you find out about TCS?
See, I was about to ask this to Nikhil sir also कि एक कल डिस्कशन में भी पॉश को लेकर काफी डिस्कशन हो रहा था
हाँ,
और
पूछ लो पूछ लो.
कॉर्पोरेट क्लेम, हाँ, कॉर्पोरेट्स क्लेम करते हैं कि दे गिव द सेफेस्ट स्पेस टू देयर एम्प्लॉयज और पॉश जैसी चीज है जहां पर शोल्डर में हाथ रखना भी एक क्राइम कंसिडर कर लिया जाता है. ऐसी जगह पर मतलब एक टीसीएस जैसे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में इस तरीके की चीज हो जाती है. मतलब उस ऑफिस में तौसीफ हैज हैड सेक्स विद दिस विमेन इन द ऑफिस कंपाउंड. तो ये कैसे पॉसिबल हो पाया बैक टू बैक? और ऐसा नहीं है कि सिर्फ जो 8 महिलाएं केस में सामने आई हैं उनके साथ ही ये चीजें हुई हैं. वो बिटवीन 2000 since these men have arrived in this office from 2020 to 2021, so many women have faced this and many have left the office because they could not raise their voice or they could not get the desired result from complaining to the HR. तो इस तरीके की चीजें उस ऑफिस में बैक टू बैक, और अभी भी 8 कंप्लेनेंट सामने आई हैं. हो सकता है और महिलाओं के साथ इस तरीके की चीजें हुई हों, बट बिकॉज ऑफ सोशल शेमिंग और सो मेनी थिंग्स दे हैव नॉट कम आउट इन पब्लिक एंड कंप्लेन इन द मैटर. और एक और चीज कि टीसीएस का रोल क्या मैंने पाया, और ये कि इस केस में भी ये सामने आया है कि बीपीओ थी ये कंपनी, और भी जो लोग सोशल मीडिया में एलिगेशंस लगा रहे हैं बहुत सारे जायंट कंपनीज के नाम लेकर, और बहुत सारे मैसेजेस सर्कुलेट हो रहे हैं. उन सारे मैसेजेस में और इस कंपनी में ये कोरिलेशन है कि बीपीओ कंपनी थी. तो जो एम्प्लॉयज थे वो उतने ज्यादा क्वालिफाइड नहीं थे, एक क्योंकि टेलीकॉलिंग और इस तरीके की पोजीशंस थी, और उनको उनके राइट्स के अराउंड या वो क्या कर सकते हैं, कंप्लेन कर सकते हैं, ऑनलाइन पोर्टल्स अवेलेबल हैं, ये कर सकते हैं कि नहीं कर सकते, इस चीजों को लेकर अवेयरनेस ही नहीं थी. द इमीडिएट कंप्लेनेंट मतलब जो कंप्लेन लेकर जिसके पास वो जा सकते थे वो था सिर्फ एचआर उनके लिए, और एचआर पे बैठी हुई थी अश्विनी और निदा. तो इस तरीके से टीसीएस का ये भी मतलब एक बहुत ही आई वुड से शेमफुल रिस्पॉन्स आया इस पूरे मैटर पे. और जो भी उन्होंने रिप्लाई दिया है मतलब यू वर राइट इन सेइंग कि टीसीएस को अपनी तरफ से कंप्लेन करनी चाहिए थी इन सारे अक्यूज्ड के अगेंस्ट. वो तो छोड़ो, उन्होंने रिकग्नाइज ही नहीं किया कम्युनल एंगल जो इस चीज में इन्वॉल्व है. इट वाज नॉट एनी सेक्सुअल टारगेटिंग. ये सीरियसली ग्राउंड था दावा. इट वाज मतलब दावा एक्टिविटीज वर गोइंग ऑन इनसाइड द ऑफिस. मतलब दे वर प्रिपेयरिंग देयर टारगेट्स टू somehow manage a kafir to convert to Islam. प्राइमरी रीजन जो अल्टीमेट गोल इन लोगों का था इन सारे विक्टिम्स को टारगेट करने के लिए, वो तो यही था, या एक तो हिंदू महिलाओं को लाओ, उन्हें एक्सप्लॉइट करो, उसके बदले उन्हें पैसे दो. इस चीज पे भी एनआईए सर बता रहे थे, पर ये वाला चीज भी तो एड्रेस करें कि ये लोग जो लड़कों को प्रॉमिस कर रहे थे कि हम पैसे देंगे, वो फंडिंग कहाँ से आ रही है. उस चीज को भी मे बी एनआईए विल ट्रैक इट डाउन. तो ये सारी चीजें क्वेश्चनेबल है, बहुत सारी चीजें अभी स्पेकुलेशन पे भी है, क्योंकि आई हैव नॉट टॉक टू ऑल ऑफ द विक्टिम्स और क्या चीजें ऑफिस में हो रही थी। ये एक्टिविस्ट के पर्सपेक्टिव से बहुत सारी चीजें सामने आई हैं, मलेशिया वाला एंगल भी वहां से ही पता चला है।
तो बोल निखिल, अभी इनका क्या होगा
देखो,
टीसीएस का?
TCS played Dhritarashtra, which is frankly in their interest, and I'll tell you why it's in their interest. But they have some weaknesses. Whatever they say, there are number of emails that move up the chain regarding the behavior of some of these people. Right? I would take that to imply institutional knowledge. You cannot keep distancing yourself from everybody. हमें नहीं पता ना, हमें नहीं पता ना, हमें नहीं पता. That is institutional knowledge to that degree. Now, you cannot prosecute an organization, but you end up prosecuting on behalf of that organization. You prosecute individual people in that organization. How that will play out, we'll have to see. I don't know exactly which section will apply and who will be in the dock, but that is very simply put institutional knowledge. That's something they have. Uske ilawa, think of it this way, boss. They're getting all these complaints. They do nothing. They don't want the FIRs to be either filed either, because they know there's been omissions on their part. And in terms, and the more knowledge you acquire of events that are occurring, right, the more your liability actually rises, because now you have knowledge of actual wrongdoing. एक चीज होती है कि आपने पॉश कमिटी इस्टेब्लिश नहीं की, चलो, that will be a violation of the Sexual Harassment in the Workplace Act, and you will have various remedies under that, and there'll be massive fines, whatever the hell it is, right? Like that's not what we're chasing any event over here. We're chasing something much more stringent here. So the more knowledge that they would have had of things that are occurring, then they would have had the problem of being facilitators. The key bit with TCS is if the information and the evidence goes to such a degree that they are involved as facilitators in some way, then that's the big ticket item against them. But again, when I say the word facilitators, I myself hesitate, because Indian law is very weak on this. Right? A joint enterprise concept that comes from grooming laws, that comes from racketeering laws, that's a far superior idea. We will have to examine whether we need this now.
Fair enough. Now, okay, I have 2-3 more things, and then we basically have the legal idea. Subhi, now I want to come back to you, और मुझे 2-3 और प्रश्न पूछने थे. So, in terms of when you have been looking at these cases, now, when you're talking to the talking to the people and you're reporting about this, did they tell you that they have found out this is happening, and or they have a larger group that is attempting to do this in any other company? Because I couldn't find that out in the reportage.
In Nashik only, or in across Bharat?
इन जनरल, जैसे पता नहीं ये लोग एक लार्जर रैकेट चलाने की कोशिश कर रहे थे कि ये एक डिसेंट्रलाइज सिंगल ऑप था इनका, कि ये लोग यहीं पे काम कर रहे थे, और ये क्योंकि जैसे मैंने बताया ना, मैं कनाडा में जो मैंने ऑब्जर्व किया है, वो तो बहुत बड़ा रैकेट है उधर. तो जस्ट GTA में 4000 लड़कियां हैं जो विक्टिम्स हैं.
इट्स जस्ट दैट कि ये चीज सामने आ गई है नासिक के मामले में। ऐसा नहीं है कि ये और कॉरपोरेट कंपनीज में नहीं हो रहा है। अभी तक जो भी स्क्रीनशॉट्स और मैसेजेस लोगों के पास आए हैं, मेरे फ्रेंड्स भी आईटी सेक्टर में काम कर रहे हैं, उन्होंने इस तरीके की डिटेल शेयर की कि रमजान में उन्हें जो पैंट्री एरिया है वो सिक्लूडेड मतलब कर दिया जाता है, और उन्हें बोला जाता है कि डोंट कैरी योर फुटवेयर्स देयर एंड मेंटेन द सैंक्टिटी because people are fasting and things like that. सर्कुलर बाकायदा जारी होता है और पोस्टर्स उसके लगाए जाते हैं ऑफिस में। इस तरीके की चीजें। इसके अलावा a friend of mine who works at a IT company in Hyderabad, he told me that the people during Ramzan would wash their feet on in wash basins and would offer namaz anywhere they want. They would just put a chadar in the even in the lobby in the workspace, and they would start offering namaz. So this is allowed. इस तरीके की चीजें भी. Apart from that, there are many allegations about companies where the hiring authorities are Muslims and they strictly hire a Muslim only. I mean, there's a company which has been named in this particular screenshot, and they have told that 60% employees in the office are Muslim just because the hiring authority is a Muslim. A person was sharing his account, his experience from an interview, and he said that I was sitting next to this person who's a Muslim, and while during conversation, I realized that he does not have much knowledge about the skill which was required for that particular job, and I had it. Still, I was not hired because the person taking interview was Muslim. So this must have been happening in many companies, and we will in coming days see more. Testimonies coming from different companies. It will not. I will not say that a thing, something what happened in Nasik, and similar thing will come from other companies also, because these are big corporate giants. And this revelation was made possible in Nasik just because the police did this that covert operation, and they penetrated inside the office, and they saw it for themselves and collected the all the evidences firsthand. So if until and unless operations like these will not happen, we are not going to see complaints coming. And if we will, that will surely be individual complaints coming. And as sir said very well that individual complaints को मैंने इतने सारे केसेस रिपोर्ट किए हैं और मैंने देखा है कि अल्टीमेटली सेम महिला जो 2 साल पहले क्लेम कर रही थी कि उसके साथ रिलीजियस टारगेटिंग हुई, उसे उसका उसका हलाला तक कराया गया है, उसके बावजूद 2 साल बाद वो महिला उसी आदमी के साथ रहती है, क्योंकि एक तो वो बेल पर बाहर आ गया है, दूसरा पूरे 2 साल जब तक ट्रायल चला, हर हियरिंग में शी वाज अलोन. बिकॉज जब भी कोई लड़की इस तरीके से अपना घर छोड़कर किसी मुस्लिम लड़के के साथ जाती है, द फर्स्ट थिंग फैमिली डज इज दे सेवर टाइज विद हर. तो शी बिकम्स अलोन. और जब ये लड़कियों को प्रिपेयर कर रहे होते हैं ड्यूरिंग द टारगेटिंग, व्हाट दे डू इज दे मेक श्योर कि महिलाएं अपनी फ्रेंड्स से भी दूर हो जाए. So they will stop meeting their friends. They will stop talking to them. They will speak less in front of the family members. So धीरे धीरे कर उसे अकेला कर देते हैं इतना, ताकि वो टोटली कम्प्लीटली सिर्फ उस पर डिपेंड हो जाए. उसके बाद फिर उसे स्टेट पर छोड़ते हैं कि वो शी इज नॉट इवन एबल टू स्टैंड ऑन हर ओन फीट. उसके बाद जब ट्रायल की बात आती है तो महिला के पास शी डज नॉट इवन हैव ₹500 टू पे टू द लॉयर टू फॉर द हियरिंग. तो फिर कैसे बार बार जब जब श्रीनिवास जैन जब जो किताबें निकालते हैं दैट लव जिहाद इज अ प्रोपेगेंडा, व्हाई ही इज एबल टू से सो, बिकॉज आवर केसेस आर नॉट स्टैंडिंग इन कोर्ट ऑफ लॉ. And there are so many reasons behind it. It's not just that laws are weak and that the allegations which these women are making are weak. No, it is it that they have sufficient. I mean, substantiate करने के लिए उनके पास काफी चीजें हैं. But despite all of it, the money thing that poses as a big hindrance. The family support also, they don't have. So what I want, after covering so many things, so many cases, what I have found out that women need a proper legal assistance, free legal aid for women who face such type of crimes, and a shelter home for them. Because अभी उस आदमी को छोड़कर वो जाए भी कहाँ. अभी आप पहली जो पीड़िता है इस केस में, जो सूर्यवंशी, her surname is that. So इस महिला को अगर दानिश would have managed to get her out of her house and or take her to मलेशिया वाली बात में अगर वो अग्री हो जाती, we all know that he was not taking her to Malaysia or so, it was just a trap. तो उसके बाद उसकी फैमिली से उसका सारे कनेक्शन खत्म हो जाते, उसकी फ्रेंड से ऑलरेडी शी वाज अवे फ्रॉम देम. तो उसके बाद उसके पास क्या ऑप्शन बचता, सिर्फ यही कि वो दानिश की सेकंड वाइफ बनकर रहे और जैसा वो कह रहा है वैसा वो करे. तो मतलब इस तरीके की चीजें मतलब ये कहना बहुत, इट इज वेरी इजी टू डिसमिस allegations and cases like these as propaganda, and that सारा all is made up, and that women मतलब ये बार बार सोशल मीडिया पे कमेंट आते हैं कि everything is made up and she is equally responsible. But no, so many times women face multiple challenges, not just at workplace, but from their family. Family support is very important in cases like this. Tara Shahdev managed to fight that battle and get the accused convicted just because she had a strong family support behind her. It is not with the case with every woman. तो इस तरीके के बहुत सारे challenges इन cases में सामने आते हैं और लॉ का तो प्रॉब्लम है ही बार बार लिटिगेशन सुप्रीम कोर्ट में आ जाती है कि एंटी कन्वर्जन लॉ की कोई जरूरत ही नहीं है पर एंटी कन्वर्जन लॉ जिस पर्पज से बनाए गए थे वो भी फुलफिल नहीं कर रहे हैं वो लॉज 5 साल की सजा 10 साल की सजा 1 लाख का फाइन इस केस में ही ले लीजिए 8 अक्यूज्ड के लिए जो एंटिसिपेटरी बेल का अमाउंट था 8 लाख 8.5 लाख रुपए 1 घंटे के अंदर अरेंज हो गए थे वेयर इज दिस मनी कमिंग फ्रॉम सो इस तरह ये चीजें कैसे इन्वेस्टिगेट करें एक मैं आपको केस बताऊं ब्यावर डिस्ट्रिक्ट ऑफ राजस्थान वहां से ग्रूमिंग जिहाद का एक केस रिपोर्ट किया सिमिलर पैटर्न था पर वहां पे जो अक्यूज थे वो जैसे अभी हम अमरावती का केस देख रहे हैं 19 साल के लड़के इस तरीके का मामला था और लड़के जो कि पेंटर वेल्डर प्लम्बर्स हैं उनके पास केटीएम जैसी बाइक होती है और उनको इस तरीके के ऑफर्स दिए जाते हैं कि ब्राह्मण लड़की पर 20 लाख ये कोई मैं इट इज नॉट मेड अप थिंग द लॉयर हु वाज वर्किंग इन द केस ही टोल्ड मी दिस दैट लड़कों को इस तरीके के प्रोमिस थे कि ब्राह्मण की लड़की पर 20 लाख ओबीसी लड़की पर 15 लाख एसटी एससी लड़की पर 12 लाख तो इस तरीके की चीजों के लिए देवर डूइंग इट उनके पास केटीएम क्योंकि क्योंकि वो अफोर्ड नहीं कर सकते हैं जिस फाइनेंशियल बैकग्राउंड से वो आ रहे हैं डिस्पाइट ऑल ऑफ दिस दे मैनेज टू ब्रिंग न्यू बाइक्स उनके पास अच्छे ब्रांडेड क्लोथ्स थे ब्रांडेड चश्मे ब्रांडेड जूते दे वुड टेक दीज गर्ल्स 13-14 ईयर गर्ल्स टू बिग बिग कैफेज दे वुड गिव देम चाइनीज फोन जिसे वो छिपा कर रख सकें और इस तरीके से पूरा साल भर उन लोगों को ग्रूम किया और फिर रमजान में उनसे रोजे रखवाए उनसे नमाज पढ़वाई और उनके उनके वीडियो बना लिए सो मच सिमिलैरिटी विद अजमेर 1992 केस सेम इज happening with Amravati and I'm sure that when I will dig deeper I will get similar details from there also so तो इस तरीके के चीजें जो फाइनेंशियल एस्पेक्ट है इन क्राइम्स का सबसे ज्यादा इन्वेस्टिगेशन उस चीज पर होनी चाहिए और उस चीज पर अब तक कोई वैसा ना इन्वेस्टिग मतलब फिर टेरर एंगल निकल आता है अभी निदा खान का भी अभी अभी लेटेस्ट ही ये रिपोर्ट किया है रिपब्लिक नेटवर्क ने कि शी वाज लिंक्ड विद द दिल्ली टेरर ब्लास्ट विमेन तो इनके चेन बहुत इनका नेटवर्क बहुत तगड़ा है और सिस्टमैटिकली इन लोगों को इस चीज के लिए ट्रेन किया जाता है बार बार मेरे पास इतने सारे ग्रूमिंग के केसेस हैं ब्यावर राजस्थान मध्य प्रदेश में भोपाल में इस तरीके से हो चुका है टीआईटी कॉलेज में सिस्टमैटिकली इसी तरीके से टारगेट किया जा रहा था आज अमरावती में सामने आ गया मुरैना मध्य प्रदेश में है वहां पर इस तरीके से एक था पीर फकीर बनकर वो शादीशुदा महिलाओं को फंसाता था तो इस तरीके के बैक टू बैक बहुत सारे छंगूर बाबा वाला इंसिडेंट आप ले लीजिए तो ये मतलब कलेक्टिवली अब कॉर्पोरेट से सामने आया और मुझे लगता है कि धीरे धीरे कर पूरे भारत से हम देखेंगे कि इस तरीके के केसेस आ रहे हैं पर अब वो आइसोलेटेड इंसिडेंट की तरह निकल कर आते हैं या कलेक्टिव क्राइम की तरह इस जैसे नासिक में निकल कर आया ऐसे आते हैं ये समय आने पर ही पता चलेगा
फेयर इनफ देखो मैं इसमें एक ही चीज कहूंगा पहले मैं ये ट्वीट रीड करना चाहता हूँ कि in 2016 at Silokhera Gurgaon I was repeatedly humiliated for being vegetarian ये at Saffron Post ने लिखा है my manager Mohammad Riaz pressured me to convert and did the same to my friend Ritu we both resigned now here's the thing यार देखो आपको मैं I empathize with what you went through but मैं आपको एक बात बोलता हूँ मैंने आज एक है ना अभी सुबह है करके मैं उसको पढ़ नहीं रहा हूँ मगर मैंने आज एक बहुत अच्छी वन लाइनर वो भी एक पाकिस्तानी पोएट की थी पंजाबी की बड़ी अच्छी लाइन है वो मुझे कभी भी कोई अगर कोई कन्वर्ट करने की कोशिश करता है ना मुझे मुझे तो समझ में नहीं आता लोग कन्वर्ट कैसे होते हैं मतलब मैं तो दिमाग के बाहर है मेरे ये जो उस पोएट का नाम है बाबा अबीर अबू जरी ठीक है जाके मेरे ट्विटर पे पढ़ लेना उनकी वो लाइन बड़ी पावरफुल पंजाबी की लाइन है मैं अभी पढ़ नहीं रहा हूँ क्योंकि फॉर अ चेंज आज मैं बहुत सिविलाइज्ड हूँ मगर I don't know whether you went and complained to the HR person or not. If you did, how did the HR respond to it? I don't know the details.
They chicken out,
But
man. They chicken out. They don't want to deal with it. डर जाते हैं, वो करते ही नहीं है.
यार मैं एक बात बोलूं फिर, ये फोन बड़ी
माइनॉरिटी
पावरफुल चीज है
माइनॉरिटी का क्या करोगे?
ना, ये फोन बड़ी पावरफुल चीज है.
यार
तो
कुशल, उसके लिए भी you're attributing a lot of strength to individual persons. What she's talking about is we have to have a mechanism where a person can just emerge with the story, right?
यार
It's
मैं
fair
तो
enough. You
सिंपल,
emerge with it.
एक मिनट, मेरे जैसे लोग, सुभी जैसे लोग अभी भी मरे नहीं है ना, जिंदा ही है ना. मैं तो ओपन ऑफर दे रहा हूँ लोगों को, देखो तुम्हारे साथ ऐसा कुछ होता है, ठीक है, ये मेरा ईमेल आईडी है, contact@kushalmehra.com. जाओ
Okay.
सीक्रेटली
They'll,
सब रिकॉर्ड करो,
they'll send you an
मुझे
email.
भेजो,
They'll send you an email. You have
मैं तो डाल
certain
दूं.
options. You have certain options to do things, you know, within the political class. You have the option of, you know, bringing sunlight to the allegation, for example, using your platform, your large platform, bringing sunlight, where you run the risk of defamation and other kinds of liability. Third option will be to forward to people like me to say do something or the other. All of that comes down to one thing: can the person stand up and make the statement they need to make repeatedly and withstand the cross examination that will come? All of it comes down to this, right? So that needs support, that needs a mechanism. I just wanted to point out, like, in the anger about all of this example that you got, that's a very good example. This person's saffron post that they put up, that's a good example. That's a solid example that needs to be studied. And if this is repetitive behavior, then you need to plug these legal gaps, right? But let's not start putting trivial things and overblowing them. As an example, during
Exactly.
Navratri, Delhi High Court, everybody is compelled to celebrate Navratri. The canteen in Delhi High Court gives you only Navratri food, right? I jocularly tweeted that during Navratri, Delhi High Court canteen food is death by carbohydrates, because it's all just carbohydrates, one form or the other, right? So, you know, somebody will turn around and say maybe another institution does it during Ramzan. That by itself is not going to cut ice, as it were. But when you start, this is why I keep coming back to this patternized behavior. It's recognition of patternized behavior. Having a law that does not require a prior agreement, a prior understanding before everybody acts, so that you can keep prosecuting also those people who join in, move out, join in, move out, and keep evolving a larger idea. That's a very important piece of gap in the law. That gap has to be filled.
Look, all I'm trying to say is today is the best time for this kind of reportage. You know, if people assume, I mean, that this was...
let me say something. Let's assume now, driven by this, there is a larger evaluation done. ठीक है, तो कई कॉर्पोरेट्स में जाके देखा जाता है, सिर्फ कॉर्पोरेट से क्या, इन जनरल एक वर्कफोर्स के कल्चर में देखा जाता है, और इस टाइप की एग्जैक्ट सेम चीज नहीं बट सिमिलर चीजें दिखने लगती हैं, उनके एक ट्रेंड दिखने लगता है, उनका एक मोडस ऑपरेंडी दिखने लगता है.
ले उसने जवाब दिया, I emailed HR 7 times but received no help. My friend Ritu had to stop working due to family pressure. My friend said, कृपया इन सबसे पंगा मत लो, वो तुम्हारा करियर बर्बाद कर देंगे.
There you go. That is exactly correct. And so what I was saying was, when you have this patternized thing, you can make a law about it. जो Subhi कह रही थी, in the context of love jihad fail क्यों करती थी, allegations fail क्यों करती थी, ये allegations prosecutable क्यों नहीं होती थी, और इनके अगेंस्ट cynicism क्यों होता था? क्योंकि ये allegation जिस तरीके से एक फ्रेमवर्क जो शुरू में बनाया गया था, वो ये था कि लिटरली मस्जिद से पैसा आ रहा है, या एक इंस्ट्रक्शन मिल रही है, या एक कॉमन आदमी इंस्ट्रक्शन दे रहा है, और फिर लोग डिसिपेट करके दे आर गोइंग टुवर्ड्स डिस्चार्जिंग. इट्स अ वेरी रूडिमेंट्री, बड़ा लो लेवल का कॉम्प्रिहेंशन है कंस्पिरेसी की. प्रॉब्लम ये है, कंस्पिरेसी बहुत सटल तरीके से होती है, कई बार इस टाइप की चीजें बहुत सटल तरीके से करी जाती है, उनके चिन्ह भी नहीं दिखते आपको. इसीलिए कोई वकील बोल रहा है कि ये इतने पैसे, ये एक सॉर्ट ऑफ रेट कार्ड लगाया हुआ है कि अगर किसी को कन्वर्ट करोगे, वो रेट कार्ड आपको मिलेगा नहीं कहीं पे, उसका एविडेंस कहीं नहीं मिलेगा आपको, राइट? So how are you going to deal with all of this in your society? Because एक चीज का ध्यान रखो, at least in my background, I'm sure with your background also, Kushal, we know a lot of very progressive, very liberal, very well-adjusted Muslims who have nothing to do with any of this kind of behavior, right? We work with them all the time. लेकिन ये जो बिहेवियर है ये एक पैटर्नाइजेशन खड़ी कर देता है, और जब पैटर्नाइजेशन लोगों के दिमाग में आती है ना, आपने 100 बार बिगट बोलना है बोल लो, कहीं ना कहीं हायरिंग में ये आदमी बोलेगा, I understand it's not every Muslim. My problem is I don't know who it is, right? And if I don't know who it is, how do I hire? That problem that arises, that has to be prevented. And if it has to be prevented, you need better investigation, stronger laws, have clarity, complete clarity, and then you can move forward. Otherwise, this becomes another element another level at which you will have this religious clash. And there's no point to that. Societally, we cannot progress if we keep having these societal clashes.
No, I understand what you're saying, but my way of looking at it, at this entire process, there are 5 main moot points to it. You know, predatory proselytization is a reality that exists in 2 major Abrahamic religions in India, and Islamism especially has a very predatory element to it. Saying this does not make one a bigot.
Absolutely not.
Saying
saying it means nothing. Look, Kushal, if you're saying this, what are we saying essentially? You take the freedom of religion in. I've said this for years. You can search my tweets. Anybody can go to my tweets and search it. I've always said, to me, the most pointless, useless right I've ever come across is this right to freedom of religion. Because what is really, if I have the freedom of conscience, if I have the freedom of expression, what do I need this separate freedom of religion for? Right? Where does it come from? These are the rights that were created by Abrahamics in pre-existing constitutions, in pre-existing and subsequently into the various human rights charters, because they also wanted the word propagate to be a part of all of these freedom of religion charters, that you have the right to propagate your religion, and it's part of your articles in your constitution as well. या तो मुड़ के बोलो कि नहीं सर, रियलिटी ये है कि आपके ये जो उसूल है, ये जो राइट्स हैं, these were made in a Judeo-Christian or Abrahamic context. They do not apply to our context because we are pagans, or we are ours is a non-converting faith. Therefore, the word propagate must be deleted. There will be zero right to conversion in this country, and it is not deemed to be a violation of your fundamental freedom, right? Of your fundamental freedom to propagate religion. या तो वहां तक पहुंचो, everything else, उसमें फिर आप मतलब आप हार्ट अटैक पे एक प्लास्टर लगा रहे.
No, but I think, look, you cannot. The biggest problem over here is, and again, these are my views, I'm not attributing it either to you or to Subhi here, but I think it's also a failure of Indian secularism, where the Indian secular, the secular tantra is somehow applicable only to the Hindu, Jain, Bodh, Sikh, and the secularism, basically, I think, which I said, Nehru made one good thing and one error in the same thing. When he created the Hindu Code Bill, he actually did create a way out for Hindu. When I mean Hindu, constitutionally, what are called Hindu in India, which is a negative definition. Anybody who's not a Muslim, Christian, Parsi, Jew, that's the definition in India of a Hindu. So when they made this journey, the biggest mistake we did was we consciously did not choose to modernize. I mean, we've done podcasts, Nikhil, where we've covered the horrifying Christian divorce laws. लोगों को लगता है मुसलमानों के divorce laws पागलों वाले हैं. Christian divorce laws तो मतलब मैंने जब तूने मेरे को भेजा था तो मैं तो अपना सर खुजाते ही बैठ गया था. मैंने बोला ये तो ऐसा चक्रव्यूह है कि तूने शादी की तू तो बाहर ही नहीं निकल सकती है. वाह रे, क्या है मतलब. तो और कई जीनियस लोगों का हमारे यहाँ पे इसका सोल्यूशन ये है कि हिंदू औरतों को भी उसी चक्रव्यूह में डाल दो ताकि तू भी ऐसे फंस लेडीज, हिंदू लेडीज, कि तू भी उससे बाहर नहीं निकले. द प्रॉब्लम इन इंडिया इज वी रिफ्यूज टू हैव अ कॉन्वर्सेशन अबाउट दिस सोसाइटल एसिमेट्री. मैं तो बोलता हूँ ये एक वो मॉडर्निटी का एक बॉटल है, ऐसे मुंह खोलो, यहाँ जिधर खोलना है खोलो, और वो ऐसे डालो उधर वो डालना पड़ेगा, वो मॉडर्निटी को डालना पड़ेगा. Even if it goes to where the sun don't shine, I don't care. You have to shove modernity through legal means on people. I don't care. And you are absolutely right that we have to, this is a problem that you have raised, that you can't tarnish the entire community, but at the same time denialism is also not the answer. You can't
That's what I'm
just
saying.
say अरे ये
But
तो
I'm saying,
होता ही नहीं है.
if I'm a hirer, I fully well, I'm not a
भाई
bigoted
मैं तेरे को
person.
रियल
I don't
स्टोरी
deal
देता
with
हूँ.
it.
मैं तेरे को फोन पे ये स्टोरी बता दी है. सुबह मैं आपको ये स्टोरी बता रहा हूँ. सो दिस इज अ रियल लाइफ स्टोरी. मैं जस्ट कंपनी का नाम और ये सब चीजें मैं छुपा रहा हूँ. ठीक है. इंटरव्यू होता है. अभी आप ये स्टोरी सुनो. इंटरव्यू हो रहा है. ये एक हेज फंड है. ठीक है. बड़ा हेज फंड. उसमें इंटरव्यू हो रहा है और वो बंदा आता है, बोलता है ठीक है तो हमारे ये कंपनी का ये पोर्टफोलियो है, उसमें स्लॉटरिंग भी है, सुअर भी स्लॉटर होता है भाई, और शराब भी है. शराबों की कंपनी में भी हम इन्वेस्ट करते हैं. तो हमें ये सब मार्केट्स को एनालाइज करना होता है और इसमें पैसा डालो, पैसा निकालो. यू नो हाउ हेज फंड्स आर. पैसा डालो, पैसा निकालो, इस कंपनी को स्टडी करो. हमारा जीनियस ऑन द अदर साइड बोलता है ये मेरे धर्म के खिलाफ है, ये मैं नहीं करूंगा, मैं बाकी कंपनीज को एनालाइज करूंगा. कॉन्फिडेंस देखो बंदे का. मैं बोलता कॉन्फिडेंस देखो बंदे का. उसने बोला भाई हम आपको नहीं हायर कर सकते क्योंकि आप हमारे जॉब के लायक नहीं हो. सॉरी, फाइंड अ कंपनी वेयर यू कैन डू इट. बंदा बोलता तुमने मेरे ह्यूमन राइट्स को ललकारा. ह्यूमन राइट्स कहां से आ गए? ओए ओए तू काम नहीं कर रहा है, कल को तू बोलेगा मेरे काम में ये कटिंग नहीं है, मगर मेरे रिलीजन में ऐसे कटिंग अलाउड नहीं है, मैं कटिंग नहीं करांगा, तो मैं तेनू रख के की करा. ये क्लासिक सिचुएशन है ऑफ वी डोंट वांट टू टार्निश द एंटायर कम्युनिटी बट वी ऑल्सो डोंट वांट टू लिव इन डिनायलिज्म. यार ये डिनायलिज्म है, ये कि प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं है. भाई ऐसी कैसी प्रॉब्लम नहीं है? प्रॉब्लम है, उसके बारे में बात नहीं करेंगे तो कैसे चलेगा? तो ये एक तीसरी चीज थी डिनायलिज्म की. और सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम हमारे देश में है कि जो हमारा लेफ्टी है, हमारा जो अपने आप को लिबरल बोलता है, पता नहीं किस एंगल से लिबरल है मुझे नहीं मालूम है, मगर है जो लेफ्ट है और जो हमारा नॉर्मल मुस्लिम है. जब तक आप एट स्केल इस प्रॉब्लम को हेड ऑन बात नहीं करोगे, और ये मतलब मुझे विश्वास नहीं होता राजदीप सरदेसाई ने जो हरकत की है आज. राजदीप सर मतलब विक्टिम की फैमिली के केस को ऐसा बोल रहा है ट्विस्ट है. अबे क्या ट्विस्ट आया उसमें ट्विस्ट क्या है? तुम मेरे को एक बात बताओ, ये वो जो टेररिस्ट होते हैं, जो एक्चुअल में रिकॉर्ड भी होते हैं टेररिज्म एक्टिविटी करते हुए, उनके भी माँ बाप बोलते नहीं हमारा बच्चा तो बड़ा अच्छा है. तो ये क्या स्टोरी में ट्विस्ट आ गई कोई? राजदीप सरदेसाई के स्टैंडर्ड्स ये हैं कि मैं एक चोर के पास, फैमिली के पास गया, चोर की फैमिली बोलते नंबर 1 बच्चा है हमारा, कुछ करता ही नहीं है जी, बस थोड़ी शराब पीता है, 2-4 लोगों को डंडा मार के आ जाता है, मगर नंबर 1 बच्चा है हमारा. ये मतलब मुझे राजदीप सरदेसाई उस समय वो अमिताभ बच्चन एंड मौसी का सीन याद दिला रहा था शोले का. ये राजदीप सरदेसाई ये एक मेन स्ट्रीम जर्नलिस्ट है. सबसे बड़े दुश्मन तो ये है, बिकॉज व्हाट दे डू इज एवरी टाइम दे डू दिस डिनायलिज्म, every time an Arfa Khanum or a Rana Yu or many such creatures, they do this. Do you think they help the Muslim? They only create more bigotry towards the Muslim. They only create more bigotry. So you have to have more people openly talking about these things. These are my views, again, not Subhi's views, not Nikhil's views. So before people attribute it. And the last thing, boss, to every single person in India, गिव मोर फ्रीडम. इसकी कोर प्रॉब्लम ये है, आप कुछ भी कर लोगे, लास्ट में वो बोल देगा मेरा रिलीजन है ये. फिर आप उसके रिलीजन को क्रिटिसाइज करोगे, बोलेगा माय रिलीजियस सेंटिमेंट्स आर हर्ट, और वो आपके ऊपर उल्टा 295A का केस डालेगा, 153A का केस डलवाएगा, और बाद में आप जेल में होगे जस्ट फॉर मियरली रीडिंग अ गार्बेज रिलीजियस टेक्सचुअल वर्स. अभी आपका सड़ा हुआ डिफेंस होता है कि आप हिंदुइज्म को भी क्रिटिसाइज कर सकते हो. भाई हिंदुइज्म में एक इनहेरेंट एबिलिटी है. हिंदुइज्म ने तो मेरे जैसे लोगों को भी अब्सॉर्ब कर लिया जो ओपनली बोलते हैं भगवान नहीं है. उनका नहीं कर सकता है, उनके कोड में प्रॉब्लम है, उनमें मेरे जैसे लोग नहीं अलाउड हैं. तो मेरे जैसे लोगों को बोलने दो, उनके बारे में भी बोलेंगे हम. तो ये चीजें हैं, ये मेरे हिसाब से हम लोग इस चीज को, और ये सोसाइटल डिस्कशन, मतलब मैं कल एक टॉर्चर होने के लिए सुभी को देखा मैंने एक स्पेस में, तो मैं खुल के बात कर रहा हूँ कि मैं भी टॉर्चर होने चले गया उधर. तो मैं टॉर्चर हो रहा था उधर सुन सुन के, जो मैंने अंकल और आंटियों के सजेशन सुने उधर, कि मतलब अंकल आंटियों ने तो हमारी बच्चियों को ब्लेम करना शुरू कर दिया, मतलब वो ऐसी निंजा टेक्निक्स यूज की जा रही थी उधर लड़कियों को ब्लेम करने की, मतलब हिंदू लड़कियां ही ऐसी हैं। मैंने बोला है मतलब तुम क्या चाहते हो कि एक मुस्लिम लड़की फुल डार्थ वेडर है तो तुम हिंदू लड़की को हाफ डार्थ वेडर बनाना चाहते हो, क्या करना चाहते हो तुम? ये लोगों के मतलब मेरे को ऐसे जीनियस सजेशंस मेरे को समझ में नहीं आते। बट ये मेरे इमोशंस है इस पूरे केस में कि इवेंचुअली सोल्यूशन, लीगल सॉल्यूशंस निखिल ने बताए हैं, मगर ये एक सोशल प्रॉब्लम है और हमारे सोसाइटी में हम क्योंकि दबाया जाता है इन चीजों के बारे में, चर्चा को दबाया जाता है, तो वो किधर ना किधर बिगेटरी के फॉर्म में बाहर आ जाता है फिर। और फिर लोग बोलते हैं तू बिगट है, मतलब अबे बोलने तो दे, बोलने नहीं देता तो बिगट ही बनाएगा ना तू। एनीवेज, सुबी, इज देयर एनीथिंग एल्स यू वांट टू टॉक अबाउट?
I just wanted to ask Nikhil sir a few things which are about the screenshots which are in circulation from so many alleged corporate giants. तो इस सब में जैसे मैंने बताया कि हैदराबाद का फ्रेंड ने बताया कि they used to wash their feet on wash basins and they would offer namaz wherever they want, कहीं भी चादर डालकर शुरू हो गए। और जैसे जैसे इस केस में भी बहुत सारी चीजें हैं लेकर, जैसे क्वेश्चन ही करने लगे भगवान को। तो ये सारी चीजें भी क्या लीगली क्राइम कंसिडर की जा सकती हैं? मतलब ये तो जनरल कन्वर्सेशन है। वी
some
आर
things
सेइंग
can
कि
be
ये हॉटबेड था उनके, दे वांटेड टू ग्रूम देम सो दैट दे कैन कन्वर्ट देम इन फ्यूचर। पर क्या ये मतलब इसको किस तरीके से
नहीं यार, मैं समझ
अगर
गया हूँ, मैं
किसी के
समझ गया
साथ
आपका
सिर्फ
सवाल
इतना
समझ
हुआ है
गया।
तो क्या करे वो? हाँ, वो क्या
मैं
करे
समझ
फिर?
गया सवाल आपका, लेकिन देखिए, लाइक वॉशिंग योर फीट इन द वॉश बेसिन इज नॉट गोइंग टू बी अ क्राइम, बट आप लोगों को जबरदस्ती, उनको मतलब कोई डिस्कशन का बेसिस नहीं है, कोई इनविटेशन नहीं है, आप जबरदस्ती आके उनके भगवानों को गालियां दे रहे हो, बार बार दे रहे हो, perhaps that can fill that, but that will also need to be patronized behavior, perhaps that can fit under an offense। वैसे जो आप जो डिस्क्राइब कर रहे हो ना, ये इसमें ना प्रॉब्लम इज बिकॉज वी डिस्कस दिस फ्रॉम द पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ एन ऑफेंस एंड ऑफ अ क्राइम, we forgot that the institution has such a big role to play, right? So a lot of this has to go to a place like TCS. It has to go to whatever company is involved, right? That you are permitting all of this on this is going to cause problems. It is going to cause clashes. अब उसका काउंटर फैक्चुअल देखिए जरा एक मिनट के लिए। तो जवाब आपको हमेशा मिलेगा वो ये है कि दिवाली पे तो सब लिटरली दिवाली मना रहे होते हैं, राइट? सबका एक there are some festive events that are occurring for everyone. तो ईद पे हम लोग कर रहे हैं, right? So we'll have to see how all of this has to be balanced, and this has to be balanced within an institution. So an institution may well be saying we are promoting both. Perhaps the best solution for all institutions is shut everything down. काम करने आए हो, काम करो और चलो। उसमें उनको प्रॉब्लम
मेरा
आती है, they're correct to not do that, is because then it takes the human element out of people, and then they don't like being in the workplace, and then they become inefficient. So it's a very tricky space, but there has to be some institutional understanding here and some institutional policy making which is superior to what exists today. अभी जो आपने देखा TCS में, ये तो बहुत ही लो लेवल पॉलिसी मेकिंग है, बहुत ही लो लेवल एनफोर्समेंट है, इनका तो बहुत ही बुरा हाल है। दे विल हैव टू डू अ full survey and they're at that process, good luck to them। but जो आप बाकी इंसिडेंट्स बता रहे हो, ये थोड़े से ट्रिकी हो जाते हैं। हाउ डज द कॉर्पोरेट लेवल डील विद क्रिमिनल राइट? तो कर ही नहीं सकती। सो इट हैज टू बी द कॉर्पोरेट साइड दैट हैज टू डील विद देयर ओन इंस्टीट्यूशनल लेवल्स।
Subhi, honestly, my answer to you would be कि this has to be a social movement inside the company by the rest of the people who have to create। पता नहीं, मैं तो ऐसी हमनी होता रहा, तो मैं तो जब वो बंदा पैर धो रहा होता था, मैं तो उधर ही साबुन लगा के अपने बाल धोना शुरू हो जाता था, शैम्पू वाला। तो वो पूछते थे क्या होता ना, मेरा रिलीजन कहता है बाल धो ले। मैं तो ये करता था, मैं तो बराबर बाल धोना शुरू कर देता था। मैं जोर जोर से, देखो अभी जैसे प्रेयर रूम का मैं सुबह तुम्हें एग्जांपल बताता हूँ। एयरपोर्ट पे जो प्रेयर रूम है ना, वो इस्लामिक प्रेयर रूम हो चुका है, सबको पता है। मगर प्रॉब्लम ये है कि बाकी जो लोग हैं ना, वो उधर जाते नहीं है। अभी देखो, मैं तो नास्तिक हूं, तो मेरा तो काम ही नहीं है कोई प्रेयर वाला। मगर जो आस्तिक है, वो अगर अपने प्रेयर रूम को सस्टेन करना चाहता है, तो जब वो नमाज पढ़ रहा है, उधर जाके जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर करे ना। उसको रोका किसने? उसको कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल राइट है। प्रॉब्लम ये है कि वी आर होपिंग फॉर लीगल सॉल्यूशंस फॉर सोशल प्रॉब्लम्स हियर सुबी. दिस इज माय ऑनेस्ट आंसर. हम किसने रोका है? बाला साहेब ठाकरे ने 90s में ये दिखाया था. जोर जोर से बाला साहेब ठाकरे महाआरती करते थे. 5 दिन में लाउड स्पीकर बंद हो गए. 5 दिन में लाउड स्पीकर बंद हो गए मस्जिदों के, जब तक बाला साहेब ठाकरे की चलती थी. हर चीज का एक है. गुजरात में ये हुआ था, पता नहीं सुबह आपने वो न्यूज पढ़ा था कि नहीं. गुजरात में उन्होंने क्या किया, जैसे ही एक सर्टेन डेसिबल लेवल के ऊपर नमाज की आवाज आती थी, बांगे मार मार के वो लोग भजन बजाना शुरू हो गए. सारे लोग जो सराउंडिंग में इतने फ्रस्ट्रेट हो गए, उन्होंने व्हाइट फ्लैग दोनों सरों से झंडे हिला दिए. सो अगेन दीज आर सोशल इश्यूज, इनके सोशल सॉल्यूशंस हैं. The issue is why aren't the Hindus inside there? मैं तो बोल रहा हूं ना, इसमें बेस्ट है, मैं तो अपने बाल धोना शुरू कर दूंगा. बोलो क्यों? ये मेरा रिलीजन है. रिलीजन का नाम क्या है? बाल धो. कौन हो तुम बोलने वाले? मेरे रिलीजन क्यों? ये मेरा रिलीजन है. कौन फॉलो करता है इसको? मैं. क्यों नहीं हो सकता है? क्या वाहियात आर्ग्यूमेंट है ये क्यों? ये प्रॉब्लम्स आती हैं सुभी, क्योंकि आपने रिलीजन को एक स्पेशल प्रिविलेज दी हुई है सोसाइटी में. क्यों? क्योंकि ज्यादा लोग उसको फॉलो करते हैं. तो क्या ज्यादा लोग अगर फॉलो करते हैं, कल को अगर ज्यादा लोग स्लेवरी में विश्वास करना शुरू हो गए, तो हम वापस स्लेवरी ले आएंगे क्या?
नहीं, द रीजन आई आस्क दिस क्वेश्चन इज कि यहाँ से ही चीजों की शुरुआत हुई ग्रूमिंग की, जिस चीज को मैं ग्रूमिंग कह रही हूँ बार बार कि मतलब ऐसे कन्वर्सेशन से ही शुरू होकर वो आए थे कि नमाज पढ़ने से आपके पिताजी ठीक हो जाएंगे, या हमारे साथ नमाज पढ़ो तो यू विल गेट अ रेज इन ऑफिस. अभी ये भी एक अरेंजमेंट था, आई फॉरगेट टू मेंशन इट व्हाइल आई वाज टेलिंग कि जैसे ही कोई वल्नरेबल विक्टिम, उनका पोटेंशियल विक्टिम दिखता था, उसे चीजें कहते थे. इस लड़की को ही कहा इन्होंने कि आप नमाज पढ़िए और आप यू विल गेट अ रेज. अब उसका निदा खान के साथ सेटिंग था उस चीज के लिए कि हाँ अब ये हमारे ट्रैप में फंस चुकी है, नाउ यू कैन गिव हर अ रेज और प्रमोशन और थिंग्स लाइक दैट. तो इस अगर इनिशियल लेवल पे इस चीज को कंप्लेन करने कोई जाए, तो हमारे पास ना लॉ है, ना इस चीज को लीगली हम रिकग्नाइज करते हैं, तो फिर चीजें तो स्पाइरल अप होके यहाँ तक पहुंचेंगी ही. इसलिए मैंने ये क्वेश्चन पूछा.
नो, आई अंडरस्टैंड आप जो कह रहे हो. आई अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इट इज, बट अगेन सुबी द आंसर इज वेरी सिंपल. व्हेन दीज थिंग्स स्पाइरल अप, there are social answers at that stage. At every stage there are social answers to these situations. I really want people to come and try convert me. मतलब इतना इंटरेस्टिंग कॉन्वर्सेशन होगा वो, क्योंकि एक ही इंसान उस रूम से बाहर जाएगा कन्वर्ट होके, वो मैं नहीं हूंगा. उसको मैं पक्का एथीस्ट बना दूंगा, क्योंकि मैं उसको इतने गंदे गंदे क्वेश्चन पूछूंगा उसके रिलीजन के बारे में. मतलब एंड मुझे विश्वास नहीं होता है फ्लैट अर्थ में मानने वाले लोग कन्वर्ट कर रहे हैं. यार को क्या स्टैंडर्ड हो गया हमारे लोगों का? धरती सपाट है वो रिलीजन मानता है और लोग कन्वर्ट हो रहे हैं. तो मतलब सॉरी, किधर तो हिंदुओं को भी अपने स्टैंडर्ड्स को इंप्रूव करना चाहिए मेरे हिसाब से. धरती सपाट है यार, मतलब यार वैसे रिलीजन से आप कन्वर्ट हो रहे हो, मतलब हद होती है. कोई मतलब कैसे कन्वर्ट होता है मेरे को नहीं मालूम. आई अंडरस्टैंड द वल्नरेबिलिटीज, मगर वो वल्नरेबिलिटीज आर यू नो like they can be quote exploited by everyone, right? Vulnerabilities are there to be exploited by everyone. So we have to somewhere down the line we have to also do an internal analysis. Next thing, आप बताओ और क्या था सुबी?
बस यही पूछना था मुझे तो.
ओके ठीक है. तो मैं अभी let me see if somebody had a question for you. Okay, Nikhil, this is a good question. How is the CXO leadership not liable here?
Liable for what? Liable in what way?
For enabling this torture by not acting upon it.
That's what I'm trying to say. I discussed that, right? What I had discussed was this entire problem of not having a joint enterprise. Have the information having moved up the chain, management chain? It is, in my opinion, he's right, attributable to the organization itself. But that organization can also turn around and say we took whatever steps we could, and there's nothing else there. I mean, there is no law that makes them guilty for the criminal side, right? There's nothing there. So what are they guilty
Okay.
for? At best, any of these individuals could perhaps file a civil suit against them. Damages का एक बहुत बढ़िया suit इन लोगों को file करना चाहिए TCS के against, that you created a facilitative environment through
Okay.
your inaction.
So,
Through your
so
inaction.
again, ये आई थिंक दिस क्वेश्चन इवन आई थिंक सुभी यही पूछना चाह रही थी कि एट व्हाट टाइम प्रोसेलिटाइजेशन बिकम्स फोर्स कन्वर्जन, वो लाइन कब क्रॉस होती है, एंड द प्रॉब्लमैटिक स्टेटमेंट्स अबाउट हिंदू गॉड्स वुड दैट कम अंडर फ्री स्पीच? इन इंडिया तो नहीं, इंडिया में तो 295 ए है जिसको मैं सपोर्ट नहीं करता हूं, मगर है तो सही.
No, problematic statements का भी nature पे ये होता है, and technically speaking, that is not enough. There has to be a malintention behind the making of the statement. If I'm making a statement from an academic perspective, if I'm making a statement from a discursive perspective, then that should not apply. I mean, these laws should not apply. Different matter that a police officer will still register an FIR and put you through the process. It's a different matter. First half of that question was, आपने हटा दिया था, I can't see it. But I think the first half of that question was forced conversion. Now, these sections these acts have very broad definitions, inducement, etc. Let's say I am asking you to convert, and then the moment at which I say I will give you 20 lakh rupees to convert, that's inducement. Then I'm in.
Got it. Right. So Magar, Nikhil, then one question follow up. Let's say what Subhi said.
So that's a very unsubtle example and an easy example. These laws also say that if I'm preying upon superstition and creating fear for you, fear of your own existence, right, or fear of your life, or fear for the well-being of your life, I could, for example, say that if you don't convert, you will go to hell. जैसे in cases में हो रहा था, that might fit.
No, but Nikhil, let me tell you a case where actually I know of Hindu activists who won against Christians in tribal areas. So क्या होता था, ये लोग बोलते थे, ये सुभी ये केस ध्यान से सुनना क्योंकि it's very similar to what you were talking about. तो वो लोग बीमार होता था कोई घर में, तो वो समझ लो बुखार है और वो लोग कोई और दवाई दे रहे हैं, तो उसका बुखार ठीक नहीं होता था और बोलते थे अभी तेरे भगवान को प्रे कर. उसके बाद वो बुखार की गोली देते थे और बोलते थे जीसस को प्रे कर. समझ गए? इट्स वेरी सिमिलर टू व्हाट. और ये सब चीजें रिकॉर्ड की गई एक अंडर कवर बंदे ने अपने शर्ट के बटन के पीछे कैमरे लगा के ये सब चीजें रिकॉर्ड की. लेजेंड है बंदा.
अभी प्रॉब्लम पता क्या कुशल, we get a lot of cases filed, we don't end up with actual convictions in these cases, or law doesn't develop.
जीते थे.
नहीं,
मगर ये बंदा बहुत डिटरमिनेट था. मतलब ये बंदा है ना, इसको मतलब इस बंदे जैसा मैंने डिटरमिनेट आदमी मेरे या ट्राइबल एरियाज महाराष्ट्र.
अच्छा, so that's what I'm saying. This is where you need the case law to develop.
एक को सजा हुई, बाकियों को तो हमारे यहाँ कलेक्टिव चित्रॉल is the only solution that happens. मैं सच्ची तेरे को बता रहा हूँ और कुछ हुआ नहीं.
Right.
एक को पकड़ा था, सजा दी थी, मगर बाकियों को उस गांव में जो मतलब जिसको कमल कुटाई बोलते हैं ना, वही हुई थी और तो कुछ हुआ नहीं था. उसके बाद वो कभी आया नहीं उस गांव में. बड़ा मारा उनको. मैं तो एक सीधा बोल रहा हूँ, मैंने तो कुछ किया नहीं, मुझे तो सिर्फ एविडेंस देखी है मैंने और बहुत मारा, मगर बुरी तरह से मारा था. मगर सुभी ने जो तेरे को क्वेश्चन पूछा था ना, वो इसी किस्म का था, क्योंकि सुभी ने जो तेरे को केस बताया उसमें क्या बोल रहा है वो कि अब ये आदमी ने ये टोपा पहना है, अब तू इसको प्रमोशन देगी, तो दिस इज क्लियरली रैकेटियरिंग, नॉट टू कन्वर्ट.
So I'm saying that this will fit. Inducement, etc., will fit. Putting person fear of their life will fit. Preying upon superstitions will fit. These things will fit that definition.
अच्छा, ये एक था निखिल. इसके बाद एक सुभी के लिए क्वेश्चन है. आई रिफ्यूज टू बिलीव दैट दे पुल्ड दिस ऑफ विदाउट प्रायर ट्रेनिंग इन ह्यूमन बिहेवियरल साइक. Kshitij, you will be surprised. Abrahamic religions are a training manual in this particular thing. There is no human behavioral strike. Can we try them under NSA, Nikhil?
I think I discussed that you'll need the foreign element of some kind of funding and some kind of targeting for to be done. So far, there is no such element.
The evidence that we know about is too elementary to even make a conclusion here.
Yeah.
Acha, Subhi, question for you. Is there any evidence that SC/ST individuals are more likely to be victims of these kinds of cases than because they are from a vulnerable group, a socially vulnerable group?
No, it will be very generalized statement if I say so. Vulnerability has nothing to do with social status. It is मतलब ऐसा होता है कि most of the time the victims come from the ST groups, but there are victims. अभी इस case में भी most of the victims are from upper caste only. तो फिर vulnerability as यहाँ पे ये statement मेरा general जो assessment है ये fail हो जाएगा ना कि vulnerability has something to do with social status. No. असेसमेंट में कई बार गड़बड़ियां पढ़े लिखे लोगों से भी होती हैं और उनके बैकग्राउंड या सोशल स्टेटस या कास्ट स्टेटस से भी.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, let me see. Okay, Subhi, what kind of personal risk did you have to take? You don't have to talk about it.
A personal risk, I have been reporting cases like these for almost 4 years now, and this is the kind of work I have been doing from the beginning of my career. And I have been to so many so-called Muslim areas in countries, जिसको mini Pakistan भी refer करते हैं कई बार. In multiple states, I have been there. I have been to so many mosques, and I must say that women are the safest if they belong to Hindu religion and they go to the so-called Muslim dominated area. They are the safest because they treat you मतलब सबसे प्लेजेंट वे में आपको ट्रीट करने वाले मुस्लिम्स ही होते हैं. और बात ये है कि रिस्क रिस्क बहुत सारे हो सकते हैं, बट आई हैव नेवर फेस्ड एनी थ्रेट और any risk until and unless I went to Bengal recently, where for the first time in my life I felt that threat. The most the militant kind of Muslims in their behavior I found in Bengal only. Apart from that, in whole Bharat, I have never faced any threat or anything जिससे देखकर मुझे लगे कि मुझे यहाँ से चले जाना चाहिए या केस ये परस्यू नहीं करना चाहिए. ऐसा कभी नहीं हुआ मेरे साथ. एंड आई विल कीप exposing the Islamist gang. If it takes whole my life, I will do it.
All right, fair enough. All right. I guess we can wrap it up. So I'll just share a few comments. TCS didn't have posh committee. No, they did, and they did nothing. That was the whole point. Someone says someone tried to convert me. He was asking negative IQ questions when I started answering. The guy literally started running from me. So okay, so let me share some like my request to each and every person over here. Like if you can, like यार एक बेसिक फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल्स के ऊपर आर्ग्यूमेंटेशन करने की ट्रेनिंग ले लो. मुझे विश्वास नहीं होता है कि यार लोग मतलब ऐसे कोई मेरे को बोलता है तुम पत्थर में मानते हो तो मैं तो एक ही आंसर, अगर मैं बिलीवर होता रहा तो मेरा आंसर ये होता था भाई कम्युनिकेशन अगर तुमको करना है, मेरा तो आंसर हमेशा ये होता है कि भाई मैं तो भगवान में मानता नहीं, मगर अगर मुझे मानना ही है तो कम से कम अच्छा विजुअल रिप्रेजेंटेशन तो दो. ये क्या है कि शेपलेस फॉर्मलेस तुमने बना दिया है इसको, जो दिख ही नहीं रहा है उससे अच्छा तो दिखने वाले को मान लो. तो वो चले जाते हैं, उनको इमीडिएटली रियलाइज हो जाता है कि ये भाई ये तो इस रूट की सभी लाइनें व्यस्त हैं. आई एम जस्ट गिविंग यू वन आंसर एज एन एग्जांपल. मगर सीरियसली आई आई आल्सो फाइंड इट वेरी हार्ड टू बिलीव दैट पीपल लाइक मुझे मुझे तो कुछ समझ के बाहर आता है कि लोग कन्वर्ट क्यों होते हैं. मुझे तो आज तक नहीं समझ में आया. मतलब as someone who has dealt with a lot of this in personal life, like आओ मैं तुझे बचाऊं, किससे बचा रहा है भाई तू मेरे को? मतलब इमेजिनरी चीजों से बचा रहा है तू मेरे को, तू अपने आप को ही बचा ले. क्या क्या तो लोग है. बट एनीवेज सुभी, thank you very much for coming, and I want to take this opportunity to commend you for the fantastic reportage that you have done. I will go on following this case. um, so whenever you have any updates, do let me know. I will definitely share them through my channel, whatever I can do. एंड निखिल तूने आज लोगों को बड़ा दुखी कर दिया है. तू क्या होता है, तू लॉ एक्सप्लेन करता है तो लोगों को तू ऐसे लॉ एक्सप्लेन करता बोलता है वकील साहब जेल में जाने वाले कि नहीं जाने वाले मेरे को बताओ. अरे मगर just this last passing comment before we wrap up. देखो, these kinds of, this is not going to be the first case, this is not going to be the last case, but I just want to remind people that your daughters are not commodities. So just like the Islamist is trying to commodify your daughter, The solution to that is not you start commodifying your daughter. Okay, your daughters have agency, never forget that, and you have to give them their rights, but at the same time you need to have conversations about religion per se. The biggest tragedy I have found in my experience as a person who only reads religion half of the time of his life is that my experience with most religious people is they don't read religion, because if they had ever read religion they would have become like me. That's my conclusion. They don't read religion, they have no knowledge of religion. And my only request to you is that I have created two short summaries on the Islamic religion with questions, no abuses, nothing, just pointing out verses, and that's it. And the Bible, nothing. Go read them, absorb those questions in your system. If somebody questions you, you question them, and they will go away. Learn to, and honestly, the the way you guys treat your children, if you are not going to treat your child as a companion or as a friend, you're going to push that child away. If you think being a sada hua kaddu is going to help you convince your daughter or your son about all these things, then I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I leave the links of my my blogs, my summaries, and then I had written this 8 9 years ago. I don't even remember when I had written them. Way before it was fashionable to come on TV and read religious verses. I had written these entire summaries, so you guys can use them. And don't panic. All hell has not broken loose. Go follow people like Subhi, Nikhil. They have a lot to offer. And I'll see you guys next time. Until then, namaste. Take care. Bye bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.